Let's talk about Impact here. This program. It was a disaster. I don't know what else there is to say about it. I mean, there was some decent wrestling on the show. There were some good interviews, particularly by Scott Steiner. And then it was a goddamn hideously written program. Is there anybody listening to this that has not listened to the Conan interview yet?
I haven't.
Well, you're an idiot. Go up there and listen to the Conan interview, and he has tales about TNA and how they would read criticism of the show and blame the writer. And, I think Conan just asked him, have you ever thought that maybe the show does suck?
Oh, they would blame the writer of the criticism.
Yeah.
I see.
These shows to them are masterpieces.
Of course.
I can't even believe that. I mean, I guess it would have to be true because they keep churning out bullshit.
But I
mean,
say that for years. They think their show is good.
Like, how?
Well, they're not that bright.
How can you think the show's any good? I just don't understand. Like, I do shows every now and then that I realize are very bad. I don't fool myself. I write newsletters every now and then. I'm like, I tried, but goddamn, that issue sucked. I have shows where midway through I'm just like, this show fucking sucks. And sometimes, unlike Impact, it's the exact opposite. I'll get all this feedback about, wow, that was a great show. What a great interview. And I think, really? Because to me, that interview was like pulling teeth. I thought that interview sucked. I said that many, 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 many times. I've had matches I thought were god-awful. How can you produce such shit and think it's good? I don't understand it. I don't understand going to bed at night after writing these shows and thinking, I hit a home run there.
I don't know what you want me to tell you, dude.
I need some explanation of this. I understand, like, publicly, I don't do this. I try to be honest with my audience. But I understand going out there and trying to put on a happy face or trying to say that, we're proud of this. Every now and then there's like a bad movie and the director, usually like 10 years later, he'll come back and go, that was shit. But when they're doing their press tour and that sort of thing, the actors and the director, they'll come out and they'll say, really proud of this film. Really think everybody did a good job. Really think people are going to enjoy this movie. They're trying to put on a happy face. But, I think deep down they've got to know it sucked. Whereas these people, they not only put on this happy face publicly, but privately. Privately, they actually think that this is good, and the people that don't like it are wrong. I don't get it.
I like I say, man, I don't have an answer for you. This is what they want their show to look like. How they want their show to go. It has been that way for years.
Well, let's talk about it.
Maybe they watch a lot of E.
No.
So the standards of television are very low.
No. It's still, if you watch Holly's World, for example, when she goes back to see Hef before he gets married, there's still a fucking goddamn storyline right there. It's not like in the end, they use one girl at the beginning and then another girl at the end, which actually would make sense, quite frankly. But there's like a storyline thread that weaves through the television program. And, the acting may be horrendous or this and that, but the shit at least makes sense. You don't get any of that in TNA. I don't know. Begin.
Show opened with Bischoff and his crew in the ring. Eric Bischoff, how old is Eric? 50s?
He's in his 50s.
He's decided that in 2011, in his 50s, however old he is, it's a good time to grow out his hair. His hair is now long. It's like flowing down the back. It's like what Ric Flair wants his hair to look like. Mystifying to me.
Well, it's not mystifying to me at all. He was a karate guy in the 80s.
So he's trying to grow out a ponytail?
No, he's
like
just...
Seagal?
Well, that's a different thing entirely. But, you had all of those... You could still see guys that were karate guys in the 80s today. Long, gray hair. He wears his karate pants when he has a match. And his belt. I'll be like that someday.
Yes.
My dad kind of actually looks like that right now.
Much cooler.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So he's standing there in the ring. The crowd is chanting, "We want Flair." He calls out Scott Steiner. Steiner accepts the invitation, comes down and gets in the ring. Bischoff says that he's known Scott for too long, but he wants to put their past, have it be water under the bridge. He wants to talk business. Then he announced that Hulk Hogan is not there. Why? Because, in fact, in the court case of Dixie Carter versus Hulk Hogan, there actually has been issued a continuance.
Didn't I say last week that if they did this, I wouldn't say anything about them?
At some point you said that, yes. All right. You're going to have to go back in your word now?
Well, I'm just not going to uphold the stipulation.
Well,
it's only fair.
Taste of their own medicine, then.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
this show sucked a cock.
So a continuance has been issued.
They start upholding stipulations on their end. I'll start upholding mine.
Fair enough. Fair enough. He said Hogan won't be there. He said there was no they. Then he started talking about the people who would not be there. He talked about Kevin Nash. He said he told Kevin, do what's right for your family, get your action figure made, and make your money.
No, I'll give you the exact quote. Take the money, get your new action figure, dye your hair, and ride off into the sunset. Nash is a smart guy. That is exactly what he did. Because you see, that's a direct quote, by the way.
Yeah.
Let me read it one more time.
You're missing the part where you said, do what's right for your family, but the rest of it you have.
Let me read that quote one more time. He said that he told Nash to do what was best for his family. Quote, take the money, get your new action figure, dye your hair, and ride off into the sunset. Nash is a smart guy. That is exactly what he did. So,
the only logical thing you can infer from this,
in storyline, smart guys go to WWE and make money, and fools stay in TNA and remain broke.
Correct.
I swear to God, this is what this fucking fool said.
What is in storyline? That's what's going on.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So he then announced that Sting was not coming back. He said, Booker T, who cares about Booker? I would like
Way to get people excited for the future of your product.
I am curious about why Nash got the friendly farewell and Sting and Booker were buried, but who cares? He basically told Steiner that his options were to face Immortal and get his ass kicked, or join them.
Which is funny because I don't think Booker actually had a deal with TNA, and Nash had a verbal deal and still bailed on them.
Don't know.
And so he got a friendly send-off. That tells you something about Kevin Nash, everybody.
He is not stupid. He asked Bischoff asked Steiner to join them. Scott basically said no and ordered Eric to call him sir. And before anything could happen, Angle came out. He announced that they are here. And they so far consist of Angle, Crimson, and Scott Steiner.
Why has nobody called the cops on Kurt Angle recently?
For showing up where he is not hired?
Okay, so it got a continuance. Could they not just say that Dixie announced that Kurt Angle is rehired? I mean, make something up.
There's this fire.
Make some fucking thing up.
There's a fired man who shows up in the building every week and gets TV time.
Yeah. Make a story up of some sort.
Music played.
I mean, the shit doesn't make sense anyway, so make something up. Who cares?
At least when Cena was fired and still showing up on Raw, the storyline was that all the sound guys, all the crew liked him, so they would play his music as a favor. The crew in TNA theoretically works for Eric. The Raw crew do not work for Wade Barrett.
Where's Gunner and Murphy to get rid of him? Oh, they're in the next match. Inc. versus Gunner and Murphy.
This happened.
Yeah. So, Gunner and Murphy were perfectly acceptable indie wrestlers here on national television. And Inc. made a comeback and won. So, yes, Gunner and Murphy are failures at literally everything they have ever done in TNA.
Yes.
Yet they are still bodyguards for Immortal and Fortune.
Yeah.
Now, why they haven't hired Inc. as bodyguard since they beat Gunner and Murphy, I don't know. I always thought the idea was like your bodyguard was a badass.
You would think.
Not in TNA. They're incompetent.
They're buffoons.
Yeah, they are buffoons. And they are the security crew.
There was a segment in here where it was backstage.
Which, by the way, makes these keels look like complete imbeciles.
Right. Which makes the babyfaces look like imbeciles because they can't beat them.
Just idiotic.
It's a giant clown show. There was a backstage segment where Jeff Hardy was telling Bischoff he was confused. He said Hulk was supposed to be back and he was supposed to get his title back. Bischoff said he couldn't do anything about the judge, but we'll take care of your title. Then he started asking where Flair was. Nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kurt Angle and Scott Steiner walked in and just taunted them for a while, and nothing happened.
No one beat up Kurt. No one called the cops.
Nope.
He's just there.
He's just there. Then we got a segment where Kurt Angle, Crimson, and Scott Steiner are walking through the hallways. Kurt gets a phone call. Finds out they didn't really say anything. Just they're on their way or they touched base or something.
It's still on.
It's still on. Then they went over their plan. The plan was Scotty would go to the ring and Crimson would stick with Kurt.
That's the plan.
That is their plan.
And hey, they stuck to the plan. I think.
Actually, I don't think they were ever seen again.
Well, I know that we'll get to the main event here in a while. Christy was in Texas outside the courthouse.
This was ruled. I hope that they just found a building in Orlando. For God's sake, they're on a studio. But in storyline, they flew Christy Hemme to Dallas to report on the trial between Hogan and Dixie. So they cut to Christy standing in front of a large legal-looking building. She speaks for perhaps 6 seconds, announces a decision on March 3rd, and they cut away.
Yeah.
I hope they actually flew this woman to Dallas, Texas for these 6 seconds of video. That would make me so happy.
Well, someone will probably have the answer tomorrow.
Let's see what we can do.
Eric said he saw they, but he couldn't say who they were.
It's
and
Eric
he said
Young, by the way.
A bunch of other shit. And
yeah,
it sucked.
nothing cares. We had MTV Cribs with the Jarretts.
Mm-hmm.
They went to Jeff Jarrett's house. Karen was there showing off the house. All his daughters were on TV. And they went to his office, and she was looking at he's got a framed picture on the wall of himself breaking a guitar over Kurt Angle's head. Karen showed that to the girls. They all laughed. They looked at other photos, and one of them said that their favorite was this one over here, and they said, why? And she said, because Dixie's in it, and just got angry. Said, don't talk about her anymore. You know better than that. And they all called him Daddy Jeff. And so I was a little creeped out by having these children made part of this wrestling story, but by the end of this show, I loved it. So,
well, this one sucked. The second one, I believe, was awesome. I don't know. The kids were awesome in the second one. The kids in the first one is just like, I hate kids being used in storylines that involve anger.
Yes. Okay.
Where Kurt's yelling at them and being mean to them. You know, I hate that shit. But the second one, which we'll talk about in a while, was actually fantastic. I just hated this one right here. And I believe one of Kurt's youngsters was there as well.
Yes.
The Brady Bunch now.
There's enough creepiness going on there. We had, so for the past, year, I guess, we've had these segments where two wrestlers will be talking backstage, and we would hear their conversation because there's a camera back there spying on them. So we've had to watch promos from like behind boxes or from around corners for a long time. So one of these cameras is shooting Ken Anderson, and he turns to it and cuts a promo. The hidden cameras are no longer hidden. He addressed Jeff Hardy, basically challenged him to get in the ring and speak before their match tonight.
Bully Ray came out and did a promo about how he was Team 3D. D-Von was nothing more than a sidekick who got his tables. Said he had a new brother, a bigger, badder partner. It was the Pope. The Pope then cut a promo on Joe. And by the way, if Todd Martin is listening right now, I didn't bring this up today, but I am still waiting for the explanation for Pope and the mystery dogs. Remember that storyline?
I guess he was fighting dogs.
The charity or some such shit. Todd had faith that they were going to explain this. I said, of course they're not.
Why? Todd's a smart man.
He is a very smart man.
Why would he make that foolish mistake?
Well, he made a foolish mistake here. So that's been completely dropped. And they basically announced that it was going to be Pope and Joe at the pay-per-view. So you'll never guess what match they did here. If you guess Pope versus Joe, well, they didn't do that. But they did do Pope and Ray against Joe and D-Von, which arguably would be a bigger match. Now, as this match began, a mysterious Japanese fella randomly appeared on the ramp.
Yeah.
And without skipping a beat, Mike Tenay said, "It's Okada, Samoa Joe's cameraman." Of course!
Right.
Of course it's Okada. Joe's How fucking stupid of me to not know that it was Okada.
Joe's cameraman.
God, I hate this show.
It was very, very bad. So,
I mean, he said this as if saying, "Hey, it's the ring.
It's Obama. He's the president."
It's Okada, Samoa Joe's cameraman."
Yes.
Fuck off, TNA.
So, Sakata's at the top of the ramp. Joe is chasing Pope out of the ring. Pope sees Sakata. He is trapped. He looks at Joe. He looks at Sakata, Joe's cameraman. He jumps off the ramp and runs away. Joe and Sakata give chase. No one gives a fuck.
Of course not.
No one cares. So we're now left with Bubba Ray Dudley versus D-Von Dudley. They are brawling on the floor. They are using chairs. They're using all kinds of weapons. And Mike Tenay then announces these two are going to wrestle on the pay-per-view in a street fight.
Now, some people are going to say, "Bryan, you do realize that Sakata was on the show last week." Yeah, for 1 second he was on the show. If you blinked, you missed Sakata last week. But fine. I will grant that Sakata, Samoa Joe's cameraman, has in fact been on the show before. However, after this match, when the referee decided that men needed to come out to break it up because it had gotten horribly out of hand, and by horribly out of hand, I mean Devon was punching Bully Ray, all these geeks come out and break it up, and suddenly Bully finds two black gentlemen in the front row, and he spits water on them, at which point Tenay, not skimming beat, says, and I quote, "That's Devon's sons, isn't it?"
Yes.
Well, holy fuck! He's right. How did I not fucking know that those were Devon's sons? What a dumb shit I was.
This is the
And again, he said that as if to say, "Hey, it's the barricade."
Yeah, it was a self-evident truth that we all knew. Yes.
That's what I hate about this show.
This is what TNA does. They do not introduce characters and then have them interact. You see people interact, and then they are introduced.
I wish I could just examine Vince Russo's brain. Because it's like he's sitting there at home at night writing his script, and as soon as he decides that Devon's sons are going to be in the front row, as soon as that thought formulates in his head, his brain immediately assumes that now everyone in the world knows that Devon's sons are part of the storyline. He doesn't need to introduce them at that point. Everyone just knows. Like, there was another fucking thing on this show where they were talking about, what the hell was it? I think it was in the segment with Steiner, where, what the hell did he say? Oh, it was, I remember.
I have no idea.
Taz is sitting there talking. This is during the Gunner and Murphy match. And he says, "We thought we knew who they were, but apparently we didn't." Now, I can only presume that Taz was talking about Nash and Booker T showing up at the Royal Rumble. So, I guess they now just assume that either everyone who watches Impact is a huge WWE fan, or everyone who watches Impact is on the internet all the time. And they feel no need to explain any of this. They have they feel no need to tell us what they're talking about. They're just these random lines that, you know, I don't understand these assumptions by them.
Well, most of their programs are built around acknowledging they are WWE's knockoff. Tara and Mickey's entire feud was about the problems they had at that other company.
I mean, sometimes Dave and I will talk about something on the show, and someone will be like, "I wish you explained what you were talking about when you wrote that." And now, granted, on rare occasions, it has not been mentioned anywhere. But I mean, there are 2 newsletters on this website. There are like 20 hours of audio every week. Okay, almost every story we talk about is either in a newsletter, in a news update, or has been talked about on a previous show. That is not the case with TNA. This shit happens all the time, where they just assume that everybody watching is taking copious notes. And keep in mind, I take copious notes, and I still forget half this shit. Everyone takes copious notes on all of this stuff, and they remember all of this stuff, including stuff that they shouldn't remember because they've never been told about it in the first place. God, this segment pissed me off.
We had Jay Lethal versus Doug Williams versus Jeremy Buck in their the next round of their three-way tournament they're doing.
I mean, they couldn't even have D-Von come out and slap hands with his sons and hug them.
Wait, how hard would it have been to show a 10-second video of D-Von arriving at the building with his family?
Apparently way too hard.
Yeah. No.
Jesus.
So like I say, they must show the characters interacting first and then introduce them. Because it seems so obvious that I can't believe I have to explain this, but when you see an action to a character you don't know, you don't care about it.
You don't give a shit.
Whereas if you were introduced to the character first, you have some connection with them. Then when someone spits beer on them, you think, well, hey, that's D-Von's kids. They probably call that guy Uncle Bubba and have for all their lives. And then you immediately care. The way it was presented, D-Von apparently just hates black guys, spat on them, and left.
Bully.
And then we were told, oh, by the way, that's D-Von's kids. Then they moved on. Jay Lethal versus Doug Williams versus Jeremy Buck in the tournament. They had a fun match. The finish is the finish to every three-way ever. One guy hits his finisher. The third man comes in and steals the pin.
And by the way, we weren't told it was D-Von's sons. Tenay said, and I quote, "That's D-Von's sons, isn't it?"
Oh.
Is it? This is your job.
I guess he was asking us. Like we know what D-Von's children look like.
And no, we wouldn't have any fucking idea who D-Von's sons are. We just wouldn't, okay? We're not backstage at the goddamn fucking show. Go on.
So, yes, Doug hit the Chaos Theory suplex. Jerry and Buck ran in, kicked him in the balls, and stole the pin. So, there you go. We had Eric Bischoff pissed backstage. He still didn't know where Flair was. Robert Roode told him there was no they. They all told him to calm down. They left, and as they were leaving, AJ told Bischoff, everything's in control. We are in the driver's seat. Then he left. We had a Sarita promo.
A big sigh.
You seem to have a lot to say.
It wasn't a bad promo.
She did fine.
But it was one of those promos that, like, you know, when you're an indie wrestler and you end up on a television show for the first time ever on public access, and they ask you to cut a promo for the camera, this is the one you do. You talk way too fast. You throw out a whole bunch of words, and then you wrap it up. And usually, you know, you do a second take. Not here.
Nope.
This was the one take. It wasn't horrible.
It was
but
okay.
Just wacky.
She promised to beat up Mickie tonight, so she might beat up Velvet Sky as well, which is odd because I don't think they're tag team partners, Mickie and Velvet. So
that's why when this was over, I said, "Is she facing Angelina?" And you went, "No, Mickie."
Yes.
I was like, "So she's gonna beat up Mickie James and then Velvet Sky?
Just
what
another
the fuck
random girl.
Velvet Sky have to do with anything? And Velvet Sky didn't even end up being on this fucking show.
Can't argue. Can't answer your question. She also promised the debut of her cousin Rosita. So that's something to look forward to.
I love how everyone who debuts has to be someone's relative.
Yes.
Like Crimson is Red's brother, and now Rosita is Sarita's cousin. Mr. Anderson called out Hardy. Did a promo talking about the main event tonight. And I don't know. I did on this last week, but what the fuck do I know about wrestling? So the key was Jeff said we don't need... I don't need Immortal to beat anyone. I'll beat you tonight one-on-one straight up. Dedicate this match to my creatures of the night. Which, by the way, I guess the idea was he was supposed to be acting sincere, but then he said that in the most insincere manner possible. And then he said, may the best man win sincerely, which ended up being insincere, and they shook hands. Then we had the great segment with Jeff and Karen.
Gold. The Jarretts were having dinner, the Jarrett family. And before they began their meal, they all joined hands, and Jeff went through the children one at a time and asked, what are you thankful for? And I should have written some of these down. I hope you did.
Suffice to say, the key to this was cute because, like, none of these girls could keep a straight face.
Yes.
Some of them were outright giggling at the stupid shit that they had to say. So just, I am grateful for having the best daddy in the world. Cackling at this statement they had to make.
I just like the one who went first, I believe the oldest, when she just said, I am grateful for being a Jarrett. Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
no one got yelled at here.
No one got yelled at. The kids were all thankful for the great work that Jeff did and how he took care of them and provided for them and how happy they were. And the youngest Angle son played with his Jeff Jarrett doll. And then they all had dinner, and Jeff talked about a surprise for later. This was great.
This was a U.S. version of a wacky lucha skit.
It was.
The other thing that people
made it great.
People have forgotten about wrestling is, you got to have good heels. You got to have people that you want to see beat up, just like any movie. You got to have a bad guy. You got to have good guys, and you have to have bad guys. And, well, first off, you don't even have that in TNA. That's a problem. But, with this skit, for example, the bottom line is that wrestling is supposed to be fun. Like, sometimes the bad guy is going to win, and the good guy will have to start a quest to win in the end and make a comeback or whatever the case might be. But at the end, overall, the product should be fun. And TNA never feels like fun. Everybody hates each other.
Yeah.
Everybody's always yelling. The girls are always screeching. The dudes are always bitching at each other. No one's ever a friend. It's such a not fun atmosphere. I mean, even Raw can be really, really shitty. And some of the skits, like with the midget and that sort of thing, are really dumb. But they try to make the show largely like a fun thing. And, sometimes they fail. Don't get me wrong. But when you go to like a live event, they go out of their way to have the even in a TV taping, they try to have the dark match at the end where a dark match, by the way, is a non-televised attraction, either before or after a wrestling event to warm up the crowd or something to send the fans home happy. Just want to throw that out there. But yes, to send that fans home happy, even if Raw goes off the air with Randy Orton laid out by some dastardly heel, when the TV cameras turn off, then Randy Orton, he pops up and the dastardly heel comes out and they have a 5-minute match and Randy beats him clean and everybody cheers and is happy and then they go home. It's supposed to still be entertaining and fun. And sometimes there are shows where it's not fun, but overall the product should be fun. And you never feel that with TNA. It never feels fun. Except the occasional show where there's like a lot of good wrestling, that's a good time. But like the TV show itself never feels like fun. It always just feels like sadness and despair permeate
like
this place.
Work.
Yes. Speaking of, Sarita and Mickie James in a fucking tape fist match. Why? I have absolutely no idea why this was a tape fist match.
Let's first of all discuss that. When was the last time there was a taped fist match on national television? I bet it's been definitely 15 years. Maybe at the end of Thunder or something. It's been a long-ass time. Okay, so at random, they're going to do one here with girls. Now, since many people listening have never seen a taped fist match, the idea is your fists are taped to A, protect your hand, and B, make it difficult to grapple with your opponent, so you're more likely to just punch each other. Right? Am I on the right track here?
Well, that's the idea.
Okay. So they get in their ring, they each have one fist taped, and they begin to have a match exactly like every other match they would have on any other night. They're not even looking at their hands. They're not even throwing punches. They're just doing spots off the ropes. They're just doing suplexes and lucha spots. Nothing. So they're doing this normal match, and then in the middle of the heat, Mickie lands one punch with her untaped fist. It knocks Sarita out, and the match is declared over. Did I miss anything?
No, but I did love the idea that it's a taped fist match, and so the heat was gotten when Mickie punched the post.
Yeah, I did miss something.
Isn't the idea of the taped fist to protect your hand?
Yes.
I don't know.
This was one...
Seems kind of dumb to me.
Yeah! This actually offended me more than the thing with D-Von's kids and not introducing them until after the fact. Just, none of this... I want to know the thought process behind a single part of this segment. I want to know...
I love that when Madison ran in afterwards, and hit Mickie with a loaded glove. So, shouldn't that lead to a tape fist match? No, that's leading to last woman standing at the pay-per-view. Why?
Why?
No idea.
Getting angry the more I think about this. I want one illogical part of this segment. Not even all of them. I won't be greedy. I only want one illogical part of this segment explained. I wanted the thought process worked out in front of me.
Well, you're not going to get that, Vince.
I know. So, Jeff Hardy confronted Bischoff backstage, insisted he send no help out for the main event later. Bischoff was upset, but said okay. We had clips of the tour of Europe. Looked like a wrestling show. We had Jeff Jarrett surprise for Karen. First, actually, before that, it was announced that the girls, the Jarrett girls, had a show put on, a song and dance number, and Jarrett and Karen are sitting on the couch, and then Jeff's theme song starts to play, and the girls come in and begin to dance to it. This was awesome. I think I like this even more than the dinner prayer segment. But so they danced to this song, they all had a good time. Then later that night, Jeff had a surprise for Karen. It was a ring. He wants to renew their vows on Impact, and she said, of course, yes. So we have that to look forward to. I bet it goes badly.
I'm new to this wedding thing. I've been married 7 months and 4 days now, which actually
is longer than Jeff and Karen.
Is longer than Jeff and Karen. So either Jarrett is more romantic than me, which I find impossible to believe, or
you should really be embarrassed about that.
They're rushing things here.
Yes.
They're renewing their vows after 6 months.
They're renewing their vows long before their first anniversary.
Is this normal behavior? I'm not renewing my vows at a wrestling show either, by the way. So I do win the romantic contest here.
So we had the main event of Mr. Anderson versus Jeff Hardy. It was actually funny because early on in the match, Jeff tried to get heat. He tried to be a heel. He grabbed a chin lock and laid there on the mat unmoving. The crowd still chanting his name.
Of course.
Then later, they tried to trade punches to get the boo yay spot going, and the crowd got it right. They booed Jeff and they chanted yay for Mr. Anderson. Then they moved on from there. There were dueling chants of assholes suck and Hardy sucks. Mm-hmm. So they went from liking Jeff to liking Anderson to hating both guys, I guess.
I guess so.
So then there was a ref bump.
Of course.
Of course.
Oh, I forgot to mention my favorite hateable thing on this show. They're doing this deal. What's the name of the thing? Erase the hate.
Yes.
Unrate the hate. Erase the hate.
Unrate?
What is it called?
I believe it's Erase the Hate.
Is it Erase the Hate?
I believe that's right.
Now listen, I don't want to say anything bad about the campaign because I think it's obviously a good thing to do. But there's something really weird about an Erase the Hate campaign involving all of your heels. Particularly Jeff Hardy telling us to erase the hate when his fucking finisher is the twist of hate.
Yeah. Maybe if he had said, erase the hate except for Anderson, that guy sucks.
Baffled. Are there not enough baby faces on this show to do the Erase the Hate campaign that they have to use Jeff Hardy, of all people? I don't know.
Maybe they should get all the heels together to do a promo to promote hate. Anyway, the ref got bumped. All of Immortal came down, like 14 guys, whatever it is.
I got more nitpicking, by the way. I don't know if this is a nitpick or not, but I thought about this watching this match. So Bischoff is all pissed off that the court case has been continued. And I thought, shouldn't you be happy? Because I could have sworn for months the storyline was that we need to win all the belts so we have the power in this court case. So we have power when the decision comes down. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I could have sworn that they had a huge setback at the last pay-per-view, including losing the world title. So shouldn't he be happy that the case has been continued until they win the fucking belt back?
You asked me this. You asked me who's the TV champion or global champion, whatever it is.
I was trying to figure out the other ones, because I think they lost more belts, but I cannot for the life of me remember who any of the champions are.
I'm pretty sure Beer Money are the tag team champs right now.
Let's find out.
Kazarian is the ex-champ. I'm confident about that. But I believe Beer Money won the tag titles at the last show.
I think they did. They may be the only list of current champions in TNA.
But I am not sure. I want to make that clear.
The television champion is Abyss, who is currently dead.
Abyss?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
He beat Doug Williams at Genesis.
He did?
On January 9th, Vince.
I remember they had a match. It was not very good.
Mr. Anderson beat Jeff Hardy. Remember AJ gave Doug Williams the Styles Clash on his gimp hip?
And that let Kazarian win, right?
Abyss win, you jackass. Oh. Abyss versus Doug Williams.
No, I remember I remember the match they had because it was not very good.
Yes, and AJ ran in at the end and gave Doug Williams his move.
I see.
Yeah. Beer Money is the tag champs. Kazarian is the X Division champ. So they lost the World Championship. So anyway, shouldn't they wait until they get the championship back before the court case goes down? Shouldn't that be what they're waiting for? I don't know.
If any of it mattered.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't matter. So they were beating up Mr. Anderson, and AJ said, hold him up, and somebody held him up, and AJ went to throw a punch, and then he stopped and threw up that wacky Fortune gang sign, and then the original members of Fortune, who, since none of you could possibly remember, are AJ, Kazarian, and Beer Money, they beat up the other guys in Immortal and sent them packing, and then they stood there next to Anderson, who I guess is their friend now. And that segment ended, they went to commercial. When they came back, AJ obviously said that they were they. Bischoff came storming down the ramp all pissed off. He passed the rest of Immortal, including maybe the only really great thing about this segment, in fact, for sure the only great thing about this segment, which was Matt Hardy screaming, and I mean screaming, bastard, over and over again. I laughed. So AJ called them ingrates, or excuse me, Bischoff called them ingrates, said nobody had ever heard of them before he and Hogan showed up. AJ said Bischoff and Hogan had put a $1 million company out of business. He wasn't going to let them do it again. He said they hired guys who didn't deserve to be in wrestling. The crowd was chanting something. I believe they were saying, "We want 6 sides." Mm-hmm. That's their only concern. That's the only thing that matters about their show.
Actually. That was a great reason to never leave Orlando.
So, yes. So Bischoff said Hogan will be back on March 3rd, and AJ said he would kick their ass, and that was it.
Yeah, for those of you that didn't watch last week's show or have completely forgotten, which I wouldn't be surprised about, the main event last week was Angle and Crimson versus Immortal and Fortune. So that made awesome sense right there. Just fucking just ridiculous. And you know what?
Didn't Crimson lay out or strangle AJ at one point?
I believe he did. I'd have to go back and look at all of it. But the point is, this is just nonsensical, and it's all TNA's fault. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would sometimes... Listen, I've said this before in the case of TNA. Sometimes shit happens with TNA. Sometimes somebody gets hurt or something goes wrong. For example, the reason that Abyss and Doug Williams... The reason that match even took place was because of an injury to AJ Styles. There was nothing they could do about it. You know, it shit just happened there. But this was not a case of shit happening. This was a case of they decided they were going to do an angle with certain guys that they didn't have under contract. And when the guy jumped ship to the other company, they had to come up with something new, and this is what they fucking came up with. So, there you go. It's all their own fault.
You could even say, if you're in a good mood, that it's not necessarily Vince Russo's fault.
This wouldn't be Vince Russo's fault. This would be
definitely TNA's fault.
Yes, Dixie's fault there.
Yep.
Vinny, I've seen you drunk and dancing. You do the same thing.
I love Night at the Roxbury.
All right, let's do Impact here. A tedious show. A show filled with unrepentant tedium. There's a drop for everybody right there.
Immortal came out to open the show, which...
Dressed like geeks, with the exception of Jeff Jarrett. He looked like a star.
Jeff had his suit on. Jeff Hardy had his usual black spandex top with neon sleeves and had his face painted like a Smurf. Everyone else had some kind of strange street clothes on. Rob Terry had a blouse straight out of the Dave Bautista fashion selection. And Eric Bischoff, his shirt...
And by the way, he can't get away with it like Dave Bautista can.
Well, no one can get away with things that Dave Bautista can. Bischoff's shirt, the only way I can describe this is it was supposed to look like a plaid flannel without being a plaid flannel. That's the only thing I got for it.
Dorks.
Yes. So Bischoff starts ranting about how he had been creating stars and building brands for the last 15 years.
What a load of bullshit. Which I guess is the idea, but I guess
It's a monumental load of bullshit.
Storyline is it's a load of bullshit that he's created brands and companies for 15 years.
Yeah. So he said that Fortune was only in Immortal in the first place as a favorite of Ric Flair, who still owes me a phone call, he says. So in storyline now, Flair has just disappeared.
For weeks.
Yeah.
A missing persons report should be filed at this point.
He actually, in 2011, called AJ Styles a vanilla midget.
Mm-hmm.
That would amaze me.
An inbred hillbilly vanilla midget.
Yes. He said...
Let me tell everybody what happened here.
Right.
For those of you that have not read Chris Jericho's first book, he talks about a lesson he learned. I forget, it may have been Bulldog Bob Brown or something like that, but he was burying some old guy on the mic, and the old guy came back and said, everyone knows I'm old, and you've just buried me. So if you beat me, you beat an old man, and if I beat you, and I am going to beat you, an old man, a broken down old man just beat you. So what have you done? You've buried yourself. It's exactly what Eric Bischoff... How many fucking years has Eric Bischoff been in this business?
Oh, like close to 30.
He came out here and he buried every
25.
single member of Fortune 6 feet under. He didn't put them over in any conceivable way. Just a complete burial.
Uh-huh.
AJ is an inbred hillbilly vanilla midget. Storm is one beer away from liver failure. Robert Roode is a Canadian devoid of charisma who would never be a star in anyone else's lifetime. And Kazarian is the Clay Aiken of pro wrestling. This is what he said.
Mean?
I have no idea what that means.
I assume
but
it's
the point
bad.
was, buried every single one of them, and of course begs the question, well, why did you hire them, you dumb shit? And now you're going to feud with them? So again, what happens if you beat the inbred hillbilly vanilla midget, the guy who's one beer away from liver failure, the Canadian devoid of charisma, and Clay Aiken? And what happens if they beat you? So, to me, the thing about this show that really struck me more than anything else was the interview that was done later on in the show by Madison Rayne, of all fucking people. The Screecher. Madison Rayne came out and cut a promo on Mickie James, and she also buried her. But she also put her over in doing so. She actually built up Mickie while putting her down to set up their match at the pay-per-view. And granted, it was stupid because Mickie just stood there and took it, which was dumb. But the point was, Madison Rayne had a better grasp of how to do a promo than Eric fucking Bischoff here.
So yes, he called, Jarrett took the mic. He called Fortune out, said he wanted to talk to them directly. He said that as the founder of TNA, he hired them in the first place. He gave them the opportunities of a lifetime. When he found them, they were flipping burgers and doing landscaping, which is at least in one case true. He says they had disrespected Hulk Hogan. He was running them down one by one, and he got to Storm and said, you were training in my ring in my backyard, and with your first partner who is just as useless as this guy. So indirectly here, he compared Robert Roode to Chris Harris. This caused Robert Roode to freak out. That made me laugh. Robert Roode then cut the best promo of the year. This was awesome. He said that they took the opportunity Jarrett gave them, and they built his company from the ground up. Said they were the heart and soul of TNA wrestling, and he knew it was the truth. He said they watched as TNA brought in overpaid, overhyped, washed-up has-beens. He said they all had opportunity. The one bad line here, he said they all had opportunities to leave and make more money because, TNA's a rinky-dink company, and they have to remind us of that over and over again.
Sure.
But they stayed because they believe in wrestling and they believe in this company. He said if Jarrett didn't do something about it, he said if Jarrett didn't like it, he could do something about it. Then called them slapnuts, which made me laugh. And then a brawl broke out. But Roode's promo was fantastic.
I thought Roode's promo was good, and I'll tell you why I didn't think he was fantastic. Remember all those, and I'm not saying that these were all really any good, but there's a point I'm trying to make here. Remember on Raw when guys used to come out and do the boring 20-minute promo?
Yeah.
Well, every time they would do one of these promos, I would recap it, and it would take me about, 10 seconds to recap, and I would always note, it took me 10 seconds to type that, it took him 20 minutes to say it, okay? They were boring, but when the promo was over, you knew what the point of it was, because they had, like, a single point, maybe a couple of them, they took a long time spitting it out, and maybe they repeated it about 10 times. In TNA, these guys have 8 million things that they've got to get out in 30 seconds or a minute. And Robert Roode did a great job getting it all out here. But if you actually listen to the crowd while he's cutting this promo, they're all sitting there practically in silence. Because he's saying so much. He's just going on and on and on and on and on. And the crowd, they don't really even know how to react to all this. So I can't call it a great promo, but I thought Robert Roode did an incredible job delivering a substandard promo. So thumbs up to Robert Roode, thumbs down to the script writing here.
I'm going to blame that on these stupid TNA fans.
You got to listen.
This was a great promo.
You can't do that because earlier when
I can do whatever I want.
Vince, when Bischoff was out there burying Fortune, the fans were all going nuts chanting, "We want Fortune." And then when Fortune came out, they all went nuts chanting AJ Styles. So something happened that caused them to lose interest in all of this. And that was a guy going on and on forever. Actually, like
he went on
four
for
guys.
Perhaps 2 minutes.
I know, but still, it was just too much was said and the people couldn't keep up. That's the problem with the writers, not the people.
Great promo, everyone. Don't listen to him.
I said he did a great job delivering it.
Must you get the last word in?
Okay, well, I'll let you get the last word in. Can you remember everything that he said in that promo?
Well, yes, but I wrote it down.
If you had not written it down.
I remember his. I disagree that he had many different points. He had one key point, which is what they had to. They, the young guys in TNA, watched as washed-up stars from other promotions came in and wasted time and money, and they were pissed off about it.
Yeah.
That's too much?
Well, that's the key that you should remember. I just felt that they added a lot of other stuff.
Name one other thing he talked about.
I can't remember anything. That's the point.
Yeah, fuck you.
No, I really can't.
You can't remember anything because he didn't talk about anything else, dude.
Move on. I'm trying to let you move on here.
Okay.
I let you have the last word.
Point is, the brawl broke out. It was 6-on-4 advantage Immortal. So then Angle, Crimson, and Steiner came out to make the save. At that point, it was 7-on-6 advantage good guys. I had to count. I actually took time to go back and count all these people. So the good guys cleared the ring, and that was that. And then we had something that sucked. Winner and Velvet and Angelina all screamed at each other.
Yeah.
Again, for like 2 minutes. Just non-stop, fingernails on chalkboard, screeching. Presumably, Angelina wanted Velvet and Winner to work together. I don't care. I hate them all. I want them gone. I want them fired. And I believe they're all supposed to be babyfaces.
Going back to the previous segment, what was the point of all of those people running in?
To have a fight.
And can I say it again? Why is Kurt Angle fucking out there?
He's still not been hired.
Fired. He's been fired for months now.
Yes.
Why is he out there? I didn't like this opening segment. We had Bischoff meeting with Hernandez, who's been gone for months in Mexico. And he comes back, and Bischoff says, "You want to be in Immortal?" And Hernandez said, "Yes." The quickest angle in history. No build-up.
No.
There was no tease. Was no who will he sign with, who will he side with.
Nope.
Nothing.
He said, "We want you to be a big star, and in return, you just have to hurt a few people." Hernandez was cool with this. So they shook hands, and then Hernandez offered a fist bump, and Bischoff recoiled in horror, thinking this giant man was going to punch him. I howled with laughter. That was awesome.
Then we had Matt Hardy and Brother Ray and the Pope against Bully Ray, RVD, and Samoa Joe in a tables match.
There's RVD on the...
That's what I said.
Bully Ray twice.
RVD and... No.
RVD, D-Von, and Joe was the one team.
Oh. I don't give a fuck. Completely random tables match. I don't know why they announced it against all odds. The Jeff Hardy Mr. Anderson match is now going to be a ladder match. I don't know why. We had D-Von's sons in the front row, and then I swear to God Almighty, this is what happened. And this is why I just try to forget everything that happened on the show the moment it ends and just move on with my life. D-Von's sons are in the front row. And first off, by the way, at the pay-per-view on Sunday, it's Bully Ray against Brother D-Von. That's the match on the show on Sunday. And I guess also the Pope against somebody.
Joe.
Pope against Joe. And
they did say this was 3 separate singles matches from the pay-per-view mashed up into one match.
That's right. And Matt Hardy versus RVD. So, instead of getting 3 singles matches on the pay-per-view, you get a giant 6-man here on Impact for free. But anyway, the point is, it's Bully Ray and Devon at the pay-per-view on Sunday. So what do they do in this match? Well, Devon's sons are in the front row, and Bully goes over there and calls them 2 little bastards. So he goes to get back in the ring. They hop the rail. They grab his feet so that he cannot get back into the ring. Devon runs up and gives Bully a tackle, and Devon puts Bully through a table, and they win the match.
Yes.
So, not only on the go-home show did Devon beat Bully Ray, but Devon's sons also got revenge.
Yes. The story is over right now. It has come full circle and has come to a conclusion. There is no...
outrageously awful booking is the only...
This has to be the worst I've ever seen. Seriously.
It could be the main event. They could have done this.
This is the one I was talking about where I cannot devise a manner in which I could kill interest in the pay-per-view match more. The heel was defeated. The babyfaces got their revenge. The auxiliary babyface characters got their revenge. All was right with the world at the end of this segment. Why should I pay money to see them wrestle again in 3 days?
There's no reason.
Also, this is a nitpick compared to the Bubba Ray Devon stuff at the end of this, but this match was a 6-man with, among others, Samoa Joe and Pope. So, literally 20 seconds...
I don't even remember Pope in this match.
Literally 20 seconds into the... In fact, not even 20 seconds. The heels came out, and then babyfaces came out. Joe immediately chased Pope to the back, and neither of them was seen again.
On the show.
Why not just make any tag match?
There was not even a follow-up on the show. What the hell happened to Joe and the Pope? Nothing. Gone forever. So then they announced that tonight, 3 days before the pay-per-view, they're going to do Mr. Anderson versus Matt Morgan in a championship match.
Yeah.
Why fucking not?
As they explained, tonight we will learn who will face Jeff Hardy in the ladder match at the pay-per-view in 3 days. Mm-hmm. That's their exact words. Mm-hmm. Tonight... we will learn what our main event is in 3 days.
And this is supposed to be one of the big shows, I believe. Karen and Jeff are in the ring with geeks. Did our usual heel promo, talking about our terrible marriages and dysfunctional families, which was quite rich. And then Kurt came out, and she played the bitchy ex-wife. And Angle wanted to sign the papers for the match on Sunday. And Jarrett did a promo and said, hold on. We're not just going to sign this paper. I've got a stip. He said, if you beat me, you get sole custody of our children. Karen went nuts, not nearly as nuts as one would expect, since Jarrett offered to give sole custody of children to Kurt Angle if he won. And if Kurt happens to lose, then when Karen and Jeff renew their vows, Kurt has to walk Karen down the aisle and give away the bride. Now, that part of the stipulation is pretty damn great. The custody part is retarded. Like,
if any of you listening...
Can you possibly make a stipulation that is more impossible to believe?
Yes, I want to hear... If any of you out there work in family court, ideally as a judge who has to make this kind of terrible decision, if you were doing a custody case... and the father and the stepfather were both claiming they should have sole custody, and they agreed between themselves to settle it in an athletic competition.
You know what happened? The children would be in an orphanage.
Yes, they would be in foster care right away. If they were going to play pool or bowling or swim or shoot hoops, and the winner gets the kids, no. It makes me laugh. It does not make me want to pay money to see them fight. It makes me laugh. We had an 8-woman tag here. Sarita and her cousin Rosita making the usual TNA worthless debut. And Madison and Tara versus Angelina and Velvet and Winter and Mickie James. Rosita's debut was so impressive that within a minute, Taz was referring to her as the new girl. Mm-hmm. All right, here's the finish, as best I can do.
She's like 5 feet tall, or actually, I think she's even smaller than that.
She was the smallest woman here.
She's tiny, even by TNA standards.
By TNA women's standards.
Yeah.
So they had the heat on Angelina. She is crawling for the tag. She's about to tag out when Velvet reaches in and steals the tag from Winter. So Velvet, again, the babyface, I think. She steals the tag. She jumps in the ring. Winter, also a babyface, reaches out and slaps her. Which, by the way, shouldn't that be a tag? But anyway. So now the two babyfaces are bitching at each other. Velvet has just gotten the hot tag, by the way. Rosita then hit her in the back with one forearm. Sarita hit one backbreaker. And then Rosita hit a top rope moonsault to pin her. It sucks to be Velvet Sky.
And she didn't even know how to protect herself on a moonsault.
And she got killed in the moonsault, that too. So Velvet and Angelina and Winter all go screeching at each other to the back, and thankfully not to be seen again. Mickie then grabs a microphone as the other girls have just gone their way, and Mickie says she is sick of Madison Rayne attacking her from behind.
That's what she said. Madison Rayne did not attack her from behind, leading to her getting pinned.
No.
Madison Rayne, I don't even remember her attacking her from behind at any point during this match.
Madison Rayne attacked, no, I don't think anyone on the show was attacked from behind.
Maybe this was badly edited or something, and they took that part out.
Possible.
But she was sick of Madison attacking her from behind, which did not lead to the finish in any way, and dared her to get into the ring, and Madison got in the ring. They screamed back and forth. She cut the promo, and...
Now, I'm curious here, when you said earlier that she buried Mickie while also building her up. The message I got out of this was that Mickie James is old and washed up, and Madison is young and is going to kick her ass on Sunday, and Mickie slumped her shoulders and acknowledged this, I guess.
It was Mickey's fault. It opened up with Madison talking about how, you're really great, but you're not as great as me. At least she said you're really great.
I see.
Not like Bischoff, who said, you guys all suck, every one of you sucks, and you have no redeeming qualities. Retarded. Completely idiotic. So, yeah, but Mickie did slump her shoulders, and I don't know I don't know what's going on. But yeah, are fucking Velvet and Winter and Angelina having a match on Sunday?
I don't know.
So why was the finish built around them?
I don't know.
And they shouldn't be higher on the goddamn card than the women's champion.
I don't know. None of this makes sense to me. Roode and AJ had a match against Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Hardy in the main event. Angle came in to give them a pep talk. He called Jarrett, and I quote, a piece of scummy.
Yeah.
He said he wanted them to take Jeff out. He was upset that he had to wait to the pay-per-view. Roode stepped up and said that Kurt had done them a favor last week. He was going to do Kurt a favor tonight. He was going to step out of the match and allow Kurt to put himself in. And Kurt was cool with this. So I guess that means Kurt's hired again, by the way.
I don't have any fucking idea. That was not made clear. I thought he was signing a contract for Sunday.
Yeah.
And furthermore, why would he even be rehired anyway? Did I miss a big angle somewhere?
I no.
Did I miss an angle? I remember one where Bischoff said you'll never be hired, so fuck off. So I don't know how we got from that to to Kurt Angle's wrestling all the time.
Well,
now.
I guess Robert Roode has the power to rehire the man.
Let me ask a question again that all of the TNA defenders who get pissed off at me have yet to answer. Would it have been that fucking hard for Dixie Carter to rehire Kurt Angle while she still has this power, whatever power she might have? Is it really that hard to come up with some sort of explanation as to why he's wrestling all the time now?
Mr. Anderson wrestled Matt Morgan in the worst World Heavyweight Championship match in a long-ass time.
God damn, this was horrible.
First of all, I realize Raw does this all the time, too. But they had their World Heavyweight Championship match not only on Impact for free, but not even the main event on Impact. It was the top of the hour match.
Yeah.
So they came out, they started to wrestle. Jeff Hardy was out there. He brought out a ladder to watch the match from this ladder, and he looked bored out of his mind the entire time.
Two clunky geeks grappling with no heel and not a single right foot between them.
Yes.
Stumbling all over the place. The most idiotic ref bump I've seen in a long time.
It started off with dueling chants, and by the end there was just silence. So, yes, the ref bump was Morgan was on the apron. He snapped Anderson's neck on the ropes. Anderson theoretically flew backwards with such force that he knocked Earl Hebner into Dreamland. Knocked him into the land of Nod, unconscious. It did not look that way. In fact, it looked fake. It looked like fourth graders playing on the playground. So with the referee out, Hernandez made his big in-ring return. He started destroying Matt Morgan. Now, again, you've got two babyfaces in the ring. Jeff Hardy on the ladder, who may as well be a babyface, and Hernandez, who was a babyface last time we saw him. So
remember Matt Morgan killed him?
He kicked his head.
And so now he's getting his revenge as a heel.
Yes. So he leaned into Morgan, and all four of these guys may as well have been babyfaces, and so there was no heat for this attack, other than about 5 girls in the front row who merely politely applauded. That was their reaction. So he beat up he beat up Morgan, and he threw him in the ring, and then Anderson pinned him. And Tenay was screaming, no, not like this. It sucked. So then Hernandez got in the ring he killed Anderson as well, so I guess he really is in Immortal, and he is a heel now. And Jeff laid out Anderson with a senton, so we finally know, with 1 hour of television time left before the pay-per-view, what the main event is going to be.
Oh, my God. Then...
This company has no idea what they're doing.
Then, Bully Ray did a promo backstage. Bully Ray, the dastardly heel Bully Ray, is seeking revenge at the pay-per-view. Yes, Bully Ray is seeking revenge on the babyfaces at the pay-per-view. Uh-huh.
Are you going to leave it at that or say
That's all I need to say. Is there anything more that needs to be said?
Actually, yes.
What is that?
He is seeking revenge at the pay-per-view, and he is doing so by challenging the entire D-Von family by himself. The heel is courageously stepping up and calling out 3 men at once.
Yeah. Is it... His name is Bully. They don't even know what a goddamn bully is?
Yes.
You'd think Russo, of all people, would know. I'm sure he was bullied all through high school, for Christ's
obviously.
sake.
But yes, he's courageously defying the odds. Going to fight an army by himself. Boo him.
Boo this man.
Boo this man. Oh, God. So
actually, Russo may have had like 2 geeky friends in high school, and there was a bully that just repeatedly beat them up. It's very possible.
So, we had so you think he is envisioning himself as D-Von family?
No, well, let me think about this. How would this work? I guess the heel. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, he's D-Von.
All right.
He's D-Von and his 2 sons.
All right.
Facing one bully.
Gonna get their revenge. 3-way match, Brian Kendrick versus Robbie E versus Suicide. So, Suicide makes his return to Impact for the first time in many, many months. Perhaps the actual calendar year, I don't know. But it's certainly been a long-ass time. Multiple X Division champions. The guy has a record in TNA. And his music plays, and he does a zipline deal. And Mike Tenay says, in this exact tone, the very special entrance of Suicide. Couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Did not ask where this man came from, where he had been. Was not excited to see him back. He's just another guy on Impact. So they had their match. It was fine. Robbie E, by the way, had the most awesome New Jersey blowout hairdo ever. That's important to note. So they had their match. It was fine.
I liked how Robbie E said he was on the first stage of his journey to become a 2-time X Division champ. He's already been the champ.
Yeah.
I almost completely blocked that out of my mind.
I assume all short men in TNA have 3 or 4 X Division reigns at this point. So, Cookie distracted Suicide. He laid out Kendrick. Then he got distracted by Cookie, and that let Robbie E attack him and steal the pin. Because this is a 3-way, so that has to be the finish. Someone must steal the pin.
Of course.
You can't just have him lay out 2 dudes and look cool. No. Has to steal the pin. So the match at the pay-per-view is the Generation Me Geeks and Robbie E against each other in a 3-way. 3 heels against each other in a 3-way. And the winner of that gets to fight Frankie Kazarian for the X title at some undetermined point.
Inky Ink did a promo, and all I want to say about this is, shockingly, Shannon Moore appears to be by far the most level-headed member of the North Carolina crew.
Oh, God, yes.
Think about that.
It is amazing. That is true.
Yeah.
The message they were trying to send out here was that they stood for all those who felt they did not fit in with the rest of society. That's a fine message for a team to say. The problem was they actually used the phrase, we don't stand for 99% of people. When you put it that way, it sounds like you at home probably don't identify with us. So don't try. But whatever.
They plugged the pay-per-view.
I'm overthinking it.
They plugged the pay-per-view, and among the matches, swear to God, Beer Money and Scott Steiner against Rob Terry, Gunner, and Murphy. Let me just say that one more time in case I caught you off guard. Beer Money and Scott Steiner against Rob Terry, Gunner, and Murphy. Also, Brother Ray is a heel seeking revenge on D-Von and his family, the babyfaces. RVD and Matt Hardy in a rematch of a match we saw about 2 weeks ago that fucking was horrible. And the completely random Anderson-Jeff Hardy ladder match, and more.
And more. Then we had the main event. Kurt Angle, AJ Styles versus Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Hardy. It was fine. It was actually pretty good in spots. Jarrett was, of course, a coward and refused to get in the ring with Angle. I shouldn't say of course. I should say shockingly. TNA got something right.
Well, until the end.
Until the end. Well, even then, when he got in there when Angle was already down. When Jeff Hardy had Angle down, then Jeff Jarrett was willing to get in the ring and beat him up more. I was fine with that. And then when Kurt did fire up and he got some offense in there, at least he caught Jarrett off guard. It's not like Jeff valiantly stood there against Kurt Angle and went toe-to-toe with him. He tried to run away. Then he tried to take some cheap shots, and then he could not avoid being beaten up. I was fine with that stuff.
That's all fine, but the point of this is, the end of the match, they broke down into a four-way.
Oh, well, there is the post-match.
Angle.
That is true.
Went for the Angle, not the post-match, the fucking finish, dude. They're going back and forth, and Jeff is trying to keep Kurt from getting back into the ring. Kurt's on the outside reaching in, and I don't know what Jeff's doing, but he's preventing him from getting in. And suddenly, AJ Styles does a springboard high cross and pins Jeff Jarrett clean.
Well, yes.
The fuck sense did that make?
No.
You know the hottest feud in this company is right now?
Kurt and Jarrett?
Jeff is the hottest heel on the show, based on ratings patterns and the fact that there are more viewers per home now than there have been in a long time, because wives have gotten into the show because of this Jarrett Angle Karen storyline. So they take who is the hottest heel on the show in his feud with Kurt, and they beat him in the main event by AJ fucking Styles. But the only finish I can think that would be worse is if Kurt would have pinned Jarrett, which I'm actually shocked they didn't do.
Is AJ even on the pay-per-view?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Why did Jeff Jarrett not pin Kurt?
Because it's stupid.
I mean, hello? AJ Styles pinned Jeff Jarrett on the go-home show for the fucking pay-per-view.
Yes.
I cannot even conceive of that in my mind.
That's what happened.
That's what they did. And then, of course, Jarrett laid both guys out, but didn't matter because he got pinned by a high cross from someone not even in the match Sunday. Looked like a dork. And then heels laid out the baby faces, and various factions ran in, and we had our Against All Odds go-home show, Battle Royal, or whatever the fuck this was. RVD was there in a t-shirt, totally doesn't care. And heels got the heat again, and then Mr. Anderson ran down and single-handedly beat up all the heels. And let me just read that one more time. All the factions ran in and had a Battle Royal, and RVD beat up Gunner Murphy, and setting up a match about 15 matches down from the top of the card. And then the heels got the heat again. And then Mr. Anderson ran down and beat up all the heels. And the show ended. What in the hell does that have to do with the pay-per-view on Sunday?
Well, nothing.
What does anything that just happened have to do with anything except RVD in a match with Gunner and Murphy on Sunday that not a single fucking person on the earth could care enough about to actually pay for?
I don't know. I don't know. The only thing I can say is that, and this really doesn't make it any better, you're slightly exaggerating what Anderson did. He hit one mic check on Rob Terry, and then everyone else ran away. Now, again, that's not necessarily better than having him beat them all up, and it does not make me want to see the show anymore. So I don't know. This was a god-awful go-home show.
This show was
Did they build
rotten.
any match?
This show was rotten. You hear me? Tedious and rotten.
Yeah, TDS is giving it too much credit, really. Looking back over it, this is fucking awful.
I don't get it anymore. I never got it, but...
I think the contract signing with Kurt and Jeff may have been a positive segment.
Yeah, until Jeff got pinned in the main event by AJ Styles.
But just looking back over the show, asking myself, did they do anything to build to the show? And that one, the best I can do is the one where custody is on the line.
Or Brother Ray seeking revenge on D-Von and his family.
That's a thumbs down.
Holy Christ. This is the point where I heave a great sigh and I throw my headphones over there and I upload it and record it and then and the Against All Odds pay-per-view did not look good on paper going in. I guess in the end it was a mix of good and bad. Everybody worked really hard. There were some of the booking was just completely mind-boggling in the sense of the way that the matches were put together. Some of the stuff was very good. There were certain things that were very good and not good all at the same time. It's a very strange show. So I guess we'll get into it from top to bottom. And by the way, I finally got one piece of feedback to this show. It just came in. So judging from Dave's report on the front page, it looks like he got very little feedback. So
could be a bad number.
Might be a bad number for TNA. And if you watch the Go Home show, for Christ's sake, how could it not have been one of the worst Go Home shows of all time? Opened up with Taz and Tenay opening up the show, and there's nothing better than A, watching Mike Tenay attempt to explain all of these storylines on the show, and B, watching Mike Tenay's facial expressions when Taz is trying to explain the storylines. Pure comedy.
I actually must disagree with you there. There's one thing better, and that's when Mike Tenay is interrupted by somebody's ring music, and he reacts to that.
Yes,
that was amazing. And if any of you did watch this show, I need an animated GIF of Mike Tenay raising his eyebrow when Robbie E's music starts to play.
Robbie E came out, and they announced that Generation Me was stuck at the airport, which is true. My theory is that security stopped them, thinking they were too young to take a flight without a parent or guardian. They didn't make it to the show at all, and they were supposed to be in a three-way with Robbie E. So Robbie came in the ring and demanded the referee count them out, which the referee did. So Robbie E won the three-way when two men didn't appear. And then out came Kazarian, who is the champion, and the winner of the three-way was supposed to get a championship match at some point, and Kazarian came out and said, "You're getting your championship match tonight." And they had a pretty damn good opener. I gave it 3.25 stars. If you wanted to give it 3.5, I wouldn't complain all that much. They worked very hard. Robbie E is really not a great worker at this point, but his character more than makes up for it. He is an awesome douchebag.
Yes.
And great gear, great hair. He's one of those guys.
Great tan.
Great tan. He's a guy whose gimmick is good enough to make up for his lack of working ability right now. And of course, Kazarian made a big comeback, did a bunch of moves, hit the reverse tombstone for the pin. Looked like Robbie was absolutely scared to death to take this move because he tucked his head to the point where it was not within feet of the mat. And to be clear, I have no problem with that whatsoever, by the way.
I would do the same.
Fine opener here.
It was the good stuff. Kazarian over the past couple of months has been one of my favorite guys in TNA, which I realize is not high praise, but he's one of the things I look forward to. He had the great match with Lethal a month or so back, and this match was also a lot of fun. I also liked in his promo, he came out before the match, and he said the match is going to happen right now, and he actually acknowledged that in his promo, he acknowledged the match had been previously announced on the TNA website, but then he said, "Robbie E, I know you don't read that, so it's okay." So then they had the match, and it was all good stuff. And Kazarian is rising.
You know what I've noticed about TNA? I'm about to give TNA high praise here. And, part of the reason for this is out of their control. They did something really, really fucking stupid, and it resulted in what is happening here that I'm going to praise them for. There has been a huge change in recent weeks, mostly with the babyface turn of fortune, where TNA used to be the company with more miscast characters than any company maybe in the history of wrestling. Frankie Kazarian is so much better as a babyface than a heel that it's not even funny. And the same with AJ Styles, because the key to both of their wrestling styles is high-flying, flashy moves. And a high-flying, flashy babyface is great. The place goes nuts. They love the moves. They cheer. a high-flying, flashy heel, especially a small one like AJ Styles, it's so stupid.
It is.
When AJ's out there trying to be a heel and he's doing all of his babyface moves and everybody's cheering for him, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish here? So now that there are babyfaces, and same with Beer Money. Beer Money terribly miscast as heels. The entire group is so much better off as babyfaces than heels. It's not even funny. And this was the first example of that right there on this particular show.
I would disagree somewhat in Kazarian's case just because his comedy bumping is so awesome.
Yeah, but his comedy bumping is fine, but he still does all of the high flying.
He still does all the high flying stuff.
Flashy moves. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the person that should be sitting here telling people how to work, but some of this stuff is basic. I mean, I could just bring Chris Jericho back on the show, and he can tell you what being a heel is all about, and certainly you should listen to him before me. But Jesus Christ, the idea of being a heel is not to be cheered.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing when you've got two baby faces out there, Rock and Steve Austin, for example, the two biggest baby faces in the company, and you've got the entire crowd doing dueling chants. When you've got Rob Van Dam and Matt Hardy, where Rob Van Dam is supposed to be a baby face and Matt Hardy is supposed to be this dastardly heel, and the fans are doing dueling chants, that's not what you want. I realize it's cool to have the people into it and that sort of thing, but if you're trying to create characters and storylines that people care about, people have to care about babyfaces as heroes and heels as anti-heroes.
You have to hate the heel.
Yeah, and so anyway, they're much better off now with a lot of these guys. They're where they should be, and I'll talk about more of those as I get going here. We had Steiner drinking during a Beer Money promo. I don't know if he just did the most believable, fucked up gimmick of all time, or if he was drunk, or God knows what, but this was an interview. I don't think I've seen an interview like this since like the heyday of WCCW when we watched World Class on 24/7.
He was not at his best.
No.
Chris Rysick was over watching the show. He immediately said, "I would be terrified to work him," which is, by the way, is always true anyway.
Yeah.
But especially on this night. And eventually he finished. He just stopped talking, and so Beer Money took over. And they actually cut a hell of a promo, really, about basically how Gunner and Murphy were trying to make a name for themselves at Beer Money's expense, and it wasn't going to happen, and they led the crowd in the Beer Money cheer, and that was that.
Beer Money and Scott Steiner against Rob Terry, Gunner, and Murphy. I was dreading this match going in. I thought, holy shit, look at this match. Beer Money and Scott Steiner against Rob, Terry, Gunner, and Murphy. Turns out it was fine. Gunner and Murphy had gear. They looked like wrestlers. They weren't out there in T-shirts looking like geeks like usual. They used Rob Terry and Scott Steiner together very sparingly. Beer Money worked most of the match. Robert Roode made a great hot tag. He ran wild. There was one botched spot from either Gunner or Murphy. I don't know.
I still can't tell them apart.
But I can't either. And it's always like that in TNA with these teams. I know that the die-hard TNA fans like Dead Sea Drop are going to flip out saying, how can you not know which one is Gunner and Murphy? The answer is easy. And any casual fan, and you have to realize that when 1.5 million people are watching your television show, 1.4 million of them are casual fans, we cannot tell Gunner and Murphy apart. You just can't. It was like this with the Naturals. Mm-hmm. This is a TNA problem, and it's not even a TNA problem because the Usos, I have no idea which guy is who. So,
well, at least they're twins.
Well, that is true, but
some sort of excuse.
Gunner and Murphy may be twins for all I know.
Actually, and in this case, I actually did notice on their gear was in fact their names. But you know what? If their ass is not on camera in a close-up, you can't tell.
So Roode laid out Terry with a spine buster and cut off Gunner, tagged in Steiner, and yes, Scott Steiner went up there and did a top rope Frankensteiner on Gunner and pinned him. The place went nuts. This match was a miracle, and I gave it 2 3/4 stars, believe it or not.
Scott Steiner, besides finishing the match with the Frankensteiner, early on he was in there with Gunner and Murphy, who are large men by the standards of pro wrestlers, and he was throwing them around with overhead belly-to-bellies without much difficulty. Scott Steiner is almost 50.
Scott Steiner, I know that... How can I say this? Scott Steiner used to always call himself a freak.
Yeah.
When he was absolutely ridiculously gigantic and ripped. And suffice to say, and of course I'm not making any accusations here, but many fans over the years have made accusations about Scott Steiner, saying that perhaps he would not pass a drug test, for example. And I don't know if that's the case. For all I know, Scott Steiner is perfectly natural. Anyway, the point is, Scott Steiner really is a freak.
Yes.
He actually is a freak.
Regardless.
Yes. So I just wanted to throw that out there. We had the D-Von video package. One major downfall of this pay-per-view was all of the backstage segments. I don't know if the microphone was broken or what the deal was, but the sound was horrendous. It sounded like this was filmed for public access. It was no good. And he did a promo essentially saying that he was not going to allow his sons out there in the match with Bully. I love you, he said, but this match is between Bubba and I, just as it should have been since day one. Stay back here.
He made it clear through tone of voice that he was their father. They were to obey him and do what he said. He laid down the law, and they did not question this man. He was in charge.
Joe versus Pope.
They did a hype video to promote this match before they came out. It may have been the worst hype video of all time. And I say that not because it was poorly edited or put together, just the story behind this is so random and nonsensical.
I gave it a 1.75 stars. I thought it pretty much sucked. The thing was, and I noticed this in the opening match, and I always say this, whenever people are going on and on about how, there's like a dead crowd at the Impact Zone, and people are like, oh, these people have seen everything, you need to move out of the Impact Zone. My first thought is always, please fuck off. I bring up CMLL, they've been running in the same building on the same night every single week for decades. It's okay to be in the same building. When the crowd in the Impact Zone is dead, it is not because they're burned out. It is because what you are presenting to them is shit.
Yes, they burned out on your subpar product.
Yes. They were so hot for the first several matches of this pay-per-view. Like, you could not ask. You could not ask for a better crowd than you got in the first 2 or 3 matches on this show. So then when these guys came out and got absolutely no heat whatsoever, that to me is evidence that they don't like this, they don't care about this, they think this whole thing is stupid. Pope and Joe, actually this is a fine example of two men who are miscast. I say that with Joe. I think that, people used to love Joe as a babyface, but they have killed the Joe character so bad.
They've killed both these men.
And, I'm getting to that in a minute. His character is such an asshole that I can't understand how anybody would cheer Samoa Joe. And in the case of Pope, he's a bombastic, charismatic man, and he's supposed to be the heel.
Yeah.
So this whole thing is just completely ass backwards. And they had a match. Okada came out dressed as the Green Hornet.
Stop. We're having a match. Very early, by the way, Pope tried to leave. He was cut off by Joe's Japanese friend, who they said was a cameraman once. He was, in fact, just like Kato from the Green Hornet. And he walks out on the ramp, and I think to myself, why is he dressed up like Kato? And then Mike Tenay says, oh, Kato! Mm-hmm. What? He was completely... Like it was no big deal for Kato to drop by for a visit on a Sunday night.
Sure.
So...
Somebody's going to scream at us and say something about how this is on Explosion, or it's on TNAWrestling.com. Please, I don't want to hear that. If you don't, you have 1.5 million people watching your main show. And if you do stuff that's not on that show, then 1.4 million people are going to have absolutely no idea what's going on. And that is what's going on here with Okato, I believe they called him.
I guess his actual name is Okada, so they're doing a pun with changing him to Okato.
And by the way, that led to nothing.
No, well, it did lead to something at the very finish, but he stopped Pope from leaving. They had their match. It was not very good. It was not very bad. As we talked about, the overwhelming feeling was, I can't believe how badly these two guys have just been killed.
Yeah.
And honestly, why have Joe on your roster if you're just going to not do anything with him and have him take up space?
I don't know.
And Pope is, frankly, just about one step away from being there himself. So they're doing this match, and Pope exposes a turnbuckle, but then before he can use it, Joe locks him in the choke, and Pope taps out immediately. Mm-hmm. Before Joe even really had the choke on. Sadly, the ref didn't notice this, so it took him a while to get it on, which kind of killed the point. But so Pope tapped out. He was afraid of the choke. He was being a coward. I guess that's good. And he offered a handshake. Joe accepted, so of course Pope turned on him and beat him up.
Joe, once again, booked to look like a complete fucking geek.
Wait. So then Kato tries to make the save. Pope dismisses him. He physically dominates him instantly and erases him, and Kato never appears again. So what we had here was Pope looking like a pussy because he tapped out before the choke was put on. Joe looking like a fool because he fell for the heel's tactics. and Kato looking completely impotent. They buried everyone.
And the feud must continue.
And now they're going to feud again. Why?
Yeah,
Who could care?
Yeah, and again, the babyface won absolutely, completely clean.
Yes.
So why would we possibly care about seeing this again, except that afterwards Joe looked stupid, and so I guess we're supposed to want to see an idiot get his revenge.
I don't know.
This was no good.
This failed.
Christy interviewed Mickie, and they, of course, had a last knockout standing match, and Mickie was dressed as Pocahontas, I believe.
I thought she stole the gear from Fred Flintstone.
I gave this a half star. I thought the match was
me too.
Pretty much horrible. They had this last woman standing, and Mickie was wearing a glove, a loaded glove, and she kept loading it, and Mickey's goal was to take the glove off of her. That was the psychology of this match. So at one point, I swear to God this is true, they're brawling outside, and all of a sudden, Madison slowly and dramatically crawls underneath the ring. And you're thinking, I wonder what she's going for under there. But she doesn't come back out. So Mickie gets on her hands and knees and begins slowly and dramatically climbing under the ring with her. There is a long moment here with both girls out of sight. And then from out of the other side, Madison slowly and dramatically crawls out of the ring. And then moments later, Mickie James slowly and dramatically crawls out from under the ring. And then the match continued.
They just wrestled more.
Absolutely nothing happened. Except in the middle of this match, they decided it would be a great spot to both climb under the ring and then come back out on the other side. I have no idea. The brawl continued.
They did some spots.
I don't even remember this at all. Mickie ended up...
They did like one real tease 9 count when Mickie took a bump from the top rope to the apron on the floor.
That's right.
They did one dramatic. She just barely made it to her feet. And then she was making her comeback about 10 seconds later.
Even with notes, I have almost no memory of this.
She hit a flying vagina to the face and a spin kick. And the ref was going to count her down, but Mickie stopped. And then she took the loaded glove off. This brought Victoria down. Victoria and Mickie brawled for a while.
Tara.
Whatever. That's right. She's not Victoria anymore.
That was 9 years ago or so.
That's been a year. Regardless, Lisa Varon came down. So, yes, Mickie disposed of her, but then she turned around. Now Madison had brass knucks, and she hit Mickie with them. Went for a cover. The ref told her there are no covers. She got back up, and then the ref counted to 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think the finish took me longer to explain than it actually took to act out. This was no good.
I guess she did leave in 2009. How about that?
She just didn't do anything. I can't say that. She did one very important, memorable thing in her last few years there, the banana costume.
That's true.
That was great.
Jeff did a promo backstage, called him an asshole. Matt Morgan came out. He was there to challenge Hernandez, who came out in street clothes. And I guess the deal is, and I didn't fully understand this because Hernandez called Morgan the Great White Hype, and he said he cost Morgan his title shot because Morgan was no better than him. He said, "It's no secret that America is looking for the next Great White Hope, and that's why I went to Mexico." That is a word-for-word...
yeah.
I don't know what that means. I thought the idea was that Hernandez was Hispanic. I don't know why he went to Mexico if they're looking for the Great White Hope. Maybe he meant the Great Hispanic Hope?
No, the TNA in America are looking for the Great White Hope.
Oh, so he left.
So Hernandez, not being white, said there's no opportunity for me here. I would go to Mexico.
So why'd he come back?
Because later in his promo, he basically said that they were the majority now. He is now a Hispanic country, and they were on top.
He said Morgan was a punk-ass white boy, and said that TNA was treated... I don't know.
He was talking about
this didn't really work. Hernandez, it's not the worst idea in the world, I guess, but Hernandez's promo left a lot to be desired.
He was talking about how the people never gave him a chance. Meanwhile, the people in the stand are chanting LAX at him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wrong guy, wrong place, wrong time.
This was actually, you know what? This was another example of Hernandez totally miscast as a heel.
Yes.
He is a babyface everybody loved. He did his big dive. He's a big, powerful guy, threw dudes around. I mean, a totally fine babyface. And out here is a heel just didn't work, especially when you're trying to bully around Matt Morgan.
The crowd loves Hernandez, and Morgan, I don't know.
These two had so much more chemistry when Morgan was the big heel and Hernandez was the fiery Latin babyface, but they are going the other way. Christy interviewed Matt Hardy, who's now Cold Blood Matt Hardy, which...
It's actually exactly the same Matt Hardy, really.
It's better than the Angelic Diablo, which I always thought was the most embarrassing name I'd ever heard anyone come up with in my entire life. And, of course... One of those usual promos, he talks about suffering a near career-ending injury, did not specify what it was. I presume it was his abdominal deal, but he couldn't even say what it was. Said his brother deserted him, but it ended up being a great decision, and now he was going to chew up and spit out RVD. The best part of this promo was when he said, I am 3-0 against RVD. I beat him at Genesis, and that other time, and the other time. I don't know if he actually did. He didn't remember. I didn't remember. Nobody remembers, but I remember they had one match that was really bad. That's all I remember.
Their pay-per-view match last month was a disaster.
Yeah.
This is much better.
This was much better.
Although it is not much better in the first 2 to 3 minutes.
There's good news and bad news with Matt Hardy, and you can interpret this whichever way you want. The good news is that Matt Hardy has lost a lot of weight.
At least 15 pounds.
But the bad news is he somehow lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. I don't know how you do that. But he apparently has done so.
Weight cutting.
I guess so. Really eating those veggies. So they had a much better match than last time. I gave it 2.5 stars. It was very sloppy early. I don't know if RVD is hurt, but he's in slow motion. Much of his stuff. I mean, running the ropes, it's like he's walking backwards.
There's a point where he was pretty clearly limping across the ropes, or across the ring running the ropes.
I don't know what happened to him, but anyway, it finally picked up there. And Matt got the heat. RVD made his big comeback. They traded a bunch of spots. He went for the twist of fate. RVD avoided it, hit a big kick, went for the 5-star. Hardy cut him off, tossed him off the top, missed a moonsault, and then RVD hit the frog splash for the pin. 2.5. You might even give it 2 3/4 if you wanted to. Turned into a pretty good match there by the end. So
it was the kind of match
better.
The longer it went, the better it got, which doesn't happen a lot in TNA.
No.
But and part of it is it started off with a very low bar. They had the worst brawl I've seen probably in this century. Over the match with Rob throwing punches that were clearly missing, actually both of them, but Matt's were worse. But so then once it settled down and Matt got the heat, and Matt knows what he's doing. He can be a heel. People want to like him, but he knows how to work like a heel. So. And then Rob made his big comeback and won clean. So to this point, was the best match in the show.
I thought the opener was much better than this. Christy interviewed Bully, and he said he's being a dick. Said he liked making women cry. Essentially molested her. Said he wanted the bastard sons there tonight because he was the man that could make a man out of them. It was distressing. And he said that the kids were born through their mother's ass. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could cut a great heel promo, aside from the rape. Then we had Bubba and D-Von in a street fight. This was the best and worst of TNA. So they come out here, and D-Von is beating them all over the place, and the fans are going nuts. D-Von's getting his revenge, I guess, on Bubba, even though he beat him on Thursday. And Bubba's selling, and he's hilarious. Everything's going well. And then out come D-Von's sons. And this was the exact moment the crowd died. And this distraction allowed Bubba to get the heat. Crowd was very quiet at this point. Kids got in the ring to save their babyface father and attacked the heel 2-on-1. So D-Von made a comeback. And, of course, nobody cared about the comeback since it was 3-on-1 until Bubba took a big backdrop and screamed, "Oh, shit!" And then everybody cheered and was into it. So the kids held Bully's legs. D-Von did the diving headbutt, and they told D-Von to get the tables, but Bully gave him a low blow. And then Bully... Now, keep in mind, the kids had been running in and getting involved, and then they just moved and they stood at ringside. So Bully then handcuffs D-Von to the ropes, and he was handcuffed for a good 30 seconds before the kids finally ran in. I don't know what the hell they were doing out there. So they came in, and he's handcuffed. Bubba goes after him. He lays one of them out. The other goes nuts on him, and he boots the kid in next week and pins him. So suffice to say...
By the way, took an awesome bump.
Yes, he did.
He took this big boot to the face, and he threw himself backwards, jackknife on the ground. It was tremendous.
This was not awful in any sense of the word, but just the idea that they actually ended up doing Bubba, A, beating up D-Von, B, outsmarting D-Von, C, taking on D-Von and 2 kids and winning,
yes, and
D, winning the match. I would not have done it that way.
There were better ways to get to this finish.
Yes.
Probably hundreds.
I'll give you a great one. They do a straight match with no interference, and D-Von wins, and then Bubba's kids come out to celebrate with D-Von, and Bubba jumps D-Von from behind, handcuffs him, kills the kids, and you do the post-match angle, which, by the way, the post-match angle was one of the best things TNA has done in I don't even know
their entire
how
existence.
Long. He killed the kids and was going to hit D-Von with a chair, but changed his mind and decided he wanted D-Von to have to watch as he waffled the child. I shouldn't call him a child. He's old enough to wrestle, actually. So D-Von's begging him to put the chair down, so Bubba puts it down and proceeds to powerbomb the kid through a table. A great powerbomb. And the kid's laid out like he's dead. D-Von's going nuts. The crowd seemed legit pissed off. They brought out the EMTs. They put the kid in a neck brace, stretcher him out. Taz is speaking in hushed tones.
Today wasn't even talking.
No, the audience is quiet. I mean, everyone was outstandingly, fantastically awesome in this.
D-Von was distraught.
Yes.
Beside himself.
Yeah.
There was no consoling him. They got bolt cutters to set him free. He was furious with Bubba. He was furious with himself for letting it get to this point. He vowed to kill Bubba. There were some people early on, I believe it was a vocal minority, who were chanting one more time after the powerbomb through the table. But then everyone did their job so well that by the end, everyone was into it. They gave the D-Von family a round of applause, polite applause, as they left. D-Von had to carry his healthier son out by himself. The angle was just fucking unreal and great and awesome. The match, as we talked about, it's actually irrelevant considering how great the angle was. But yes, when D-Von killed Bubba for like 3 minutes to open this match, maybe more. And he's about to, grabs a chair or something, he's about to finish Bubba off once and for all. Then D-Von's sons come out, and as you know, the crowd died. For, I believe, the biggest reason is they were certain they were going to screw their father and side with Bubba. And inadvertently, that's what they did. They distracted him, and Bubba got the heat because they are fools. Mm-hmm. So I, at that point, assumed this had been their plan all along. So then they got in the ring and started fighting with Bubba. I was very confused. And I actually expected that...
Everybody did.
It doesn't matter what I expected.
Everybody expected the kids to turn on D-Von.
I expected one of them to, and then they would do a tag match with each of them having one on the side. But, yeah, it all built up to the finish, and as you talked about, there are much better ways to get to that, and the post-match angle was a billion stars.
I just have, after 9 years, I'm not going to lie, I have no faith in the follow-up.
Of course not.
And that's sad.
If you did, I would call you a stupid and a fool. But for what they did on this night, on Against All Odds, which I actually remember the name of, I can't even call it a home run. This is a home run in a dome building. They went through the roof.
This was a grand slam.
Oh, yes.
How about that one, everybody?
With 5 men on base. All
right. That's impossible, Vinny. Even I know that. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Angle and Jarrett. Okay. This is what I'm going to say about this match. As a standalone professional wrestling match, it was extremely good. 3 3/4 stars, maybe even 4. In the context of this storyline, I have no idea how two guys as good as Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett could have such a nonsensical match. The storyline is that if Jeff Jarrett wins, Kurt Angle has to walk Karen down the aisle and give away the bride when Jeff and Karen renew their vows. If Kurt Angle wins, then Kurt Angle gets custody of his children. Now, as we talked about a couple of days ago, the very idea that custody of living children is on the line in a professional wrestling match is so fucking dumb that it defies explanation. Like, you cannot even possibly begin to take this seriously.
No one can suspend their disbelief enough to care.
It's completely preposterous. Like, you can't even pretend that in real life somehow this could possibly work. There's absolutely no way in any universe, including the infinite parallel universes that probably exist, that this would ever fly anywhere. It's so dumb. So, with all that said, if you can just suspend your disbelief and go, okay, I can believe that in this particular parallel universe, a judge is going to okay this. All right? If you go into the match believing that it's possible that this stipulation would actually fly in the real world. Number one, at least on Impact, when Jeff made this challenge and Kurt accepted, Karen was distraught and beside herself. Okay? Now, not distraught and beside herself enough to actually say, you ain't fucking doing this, absolutely no way, we're divorced if you even say yes. No, she was just worried. Okay? But at least she was worried. Here, Karen is in the background smiling as they interview Jeff Jarrett about this match tonight. The mother of 2 children whose custody is on the line in a wrestling match is so unconcerned, apparently, that she's in the background smiling during this interview. Preposterous. So then, and we've said this a million times, why would you lock up with all of this on the line? You're Kurt Angle, and your children are on the line here. If you win this match, your children come home to you and you have custody of them. You put them to bed at night, you wake up and get them out of bed, you make them breakfast, you send them off to school, you pick them up, you hug them when they get home, you give them a kiss goodnight every night. These are your children, they're there with you all of the time. This is on the line, and the match starts with a lock up. They begin exchanging wrestling holds. I can't even conceive of people thinking that when they put the match together, you're going to do professional wrestling. Why would you do that? This is like the ultimate number one biggest grudge match you could possibly have in your entire life. Your children are on the line here. And your idea is you're going to lock up and have a grappling competition? This was so stupid. So they have every professional wrestling match you ever see. They're running the ropes. They're doing stuff off the top. Karen's on the outside. Blah, blah, blah. All of the usual goofball stuff that you have. And again, like I said, as a professional wrestling match, this was great. But in the context of this, it was I couldn't even begin to even believe it for a second. And they did all their stuff at the end, and the finish was
after
fascinating, actually.
After missed tap outs and ref bumps and Karen getting in the ring, after all this bullshit, what's the finish, Brian?
Well, what happened was Jeff went for a sunset flip. Kurt Angle grabbed his foot and was going to go for the ankle lock, and Jeff sat down and pinned him 1, 2, 3 clean.
Yes. He out-wrestled and outsmarted him.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Well, hey, I'm never going to complain about a clean finish. I was absolutely fine with this.
The only thing I would complain about is if you're going to do a clean finish, why do all the bullshit first? Just do a finish. Now, yes,
well, they wanted to make sure that you saw Angle getting the win 3 separate times when the ref was not watching. Yeah. But and then, forgetting all the stuff about let's just pretend that this doesn't bother you at all, and you're okay with the most important match of your life involving headlocks and tackles. Regardless, when this was over, all things being equal, if this had just been great and they'd done the match exactly how you would think, with just a wild brawl and blood and violence and everything on the line, when it's over, Kurt Angle stands in the middle of the ring and he's all sad that he failed, and he takes off his boots and he lays them in the middle of the ring, which in amateur wrestling, this is what you do when you retire. You take off your shooter boots, you put them in the middle of the mat, you walk off, and that's the end of your career. And Taz is trying to sell this like, oh my God, we've just seen Kurt Angle's retirement, and I just couldn't even believe they did this. I saw Kurt Angle's retirement 2 months ago.
Yeah.
2 months ago, I saw Kurt Angle retire, and he never left, much like John Cena.
No.
He was back on every single show.
With no explanation.
He has not even been officially reinstated by anybody yet, that we've had anybody give us a good explanation for. And now we're supposed to care that he supposedly retired again?
I don't know.
It's just like, how do you fuck this up? But they did it.
Well, they found a way. They fucked it up a lot. As far as the starting with the lockup thing, don't forget that the stipulation about the children, that was only added in the past week or two. The whole reason Angle is back, the reason he did not stay retired, is because Jeff Jarrett has been banging his wife and taunting him about it. Or banging his ex-wife and taunting him about it. That's enough reason to go in there with fists clenched, isn't it?
You'd think.
You would think. They also, before the match, they both did promos that made it abundantly clear Jeff Jarrett was going to win. And as usual, they used the pay-per-view as a promotional tool to plug Impact. They were mentioning over and over again that the Jarretts are going to renew their vows on March 3rd. They pushed this over and over and over again. It was like when Kane's movie came out and WWE was promoting May 19th by saying it on every single show. They're pushing that hard. So, March 3rd, everyone. That's what's important. This pay-per-view is secondary.
Well, that's clear based on feedback. Main event was the ladder match. It was Anderson, Jeff Hardy. They tried really hard.
They beat the hell out of themselves.
Well, part of that was they tried really hard, but, I mean, going in, I figured this match is going to be very, very clunky. People will probably nearly get killed. I mean, for crying out loud, it's Jeff Hardy and TNA against Mr. Anderson. Let's not forget these people here. Let's not forget who they are. And sure enough, oh my God, these guys. The finish, I guess, is apropos of the entire match. Here was what they were trying to do, everybody. So they had two ladders standing up in the middle of the ring next to each other, and they each climbed one. And the belt is hanging from the ceiling right above them, and they're brawling back and forth. And you have to picture this in your mind. Jeff Hardy reaches up, and he's got one hand on the belt. Mr. Anderson is next to him, and so he hooks him to give him a downward spiral, which is where you just, you're face-to-face with the guy, you get to the side of him, and you fall backwards and drive his head into the mat. He's setting up for a downward spiral off the ladders. Now, first off, let's forget the fact that if I were in a ladder match and I was at the top of a ladder, the last fucking move I would want to do is a downward spiral, seeing as the operative word there is downward, and in order to give a man this move, you have to also plunge from high above and land flat on your back and nearly kill yourself. But Mr. Anderson, that was his idea for a move anyway. So he has Jeff hooked up for the downward spiral. Jeff's got his hand on the belt. Mr. Anderson is supposed to go for the move, but Jeff holds onto the ladder, so Mr. Anderson takes his own bump and falls down, Nestea plunge, and as he's falling, Jeff grabs the belt, unhooks it, and also falls down, and so Jeff wins the match.
That was the plan.
This was their idea for the finish. What actually happened was, Mr. Anderson sets him up for the downward spiral. He goes for the move. Jeff holds on, and Mr. Anderson takes his own bump, which, by the way, made Mr. Anderson look like a complete idiot. But he takes his own bump and falls down, and I don't know what happened, but Jeff, the belt slipped out of his hand, or he let go of the belt somehow. The belt remains hanging from the ceiling. He takes a tumble. The ladder tips over, and he landed in the most ridiculously uncomfortable and awkward position you've ever seen. I thought he was dead.
He was on two ladders, and they split apart in opposite directions.
Yes.
I don't know if he was supposed to be hanging by the belt, or if they just happened to split the ladders apart that way, but yes, at least Anderson, as foolish as he looked, he landed flat in his bump and took a basic bump from a great height. Jeff landed sort of half sitting up, sort of on his ass, sort of on his back, not the way you're supposed to do it. Imagine in your head if you've ever had those WWE, they've got the little mini ring and they've got the mini ladders. Just imagine, lining up like four of those little ladders and taking one of your dolls and holding it above all the four of those ladders and just dropping it and seeing the destruction that would be caused to the ladders flying all over the place and the doll tipping over and landing on its head or its arm or something like that. It's exactly what happened here. That is exactly what happened. So I thought they're dead. They both are down for a little while. And then Jeff Hardy just gets up, kicks Anderson out of the ring, sets up the ladder, climbs up and gets the belt. So, anticlimactic finish. They tried really hard. I cannot fault them. It was not the best ladder match I've ever seen. I don't really even know what to... I guess 3 1/4. It was definitely a spectacle.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, God, yes.
If you want to see men nearly die, this was the match for you.
I have been watching ladder matches very regularly now for seemingly a decade and a half. Thought I'd seen it all. But no, these guys found some moves that surprised me. They set up a ladder leaning up in the corner. Anderson took a high backdrop onto it. He bounced, It looked awful. Things went downhill from there. Jeff crotched Anderson on the guardrail and tried to do the poetry in motion move that he usually does in the corner. The idea would be that he would, sort of come down and hit Anderson and then sort of fall down to the floor. Instead, he hit Anderson and fell and landed on the guardrail, basically right on his tailbone. That looked like it sucked. They got back in the ring. They put a ladder on the mat, folded just on its back. Anderson lifted Hardy onto his shoulders, and I thought, oh no, they're not going to. But sure enough, they did. A rolling fireman's carry onto a ladder. So Jeff had to fall on this fucking ladder with all of Anderson's weight on his torso. Fuck that. Ever. And then they did the finish where both men died. Mm-hmm. There's also a spot in here that ended up not leading to anything. Anderson went for a senton with Jeff stretched across a ladder. Jeff moved. Anderson splatted. His back hit the mat, but his head, at least, I don't know if it actually hit the ladder, but it was believable that he would have hit his head in the ladder. I thought they were going to do the post-concussion deal. But no, he just sold it like a normal move. And then they killed, and then they continued to kill each other, and then Jeff won. So I guess they are pretty confident Jeff's not going to prison.
The best part of this match actually was when they did a spot. They're under the ladder. Anderson goes for a clothesline, and Jeff grabs him and gives him a twist of fate, which was basically just an RKO. And Mike Tenay calls it a twist of hate. And Taz says, and I quote, "Wasn't much of a twist, just hate."
Yes.
Awesome.
That was a great moment.
That was the highlight of this match. So, anyway, overall, a hit and miss show. There was some good, there was some bad, some confusion. But overall, I would give this a thumbs in the middle, pointing slightly up. Certainly been far worse pay-per-views than this.
On the TNA standard, I will go thumbs up. A mild thumbs up.
Yeah. Let's talk about this show. You know when a show opens up with Rob Terry, Matt Hardy, Gunner, and Murphy coming out?
Someone said, "God damn it, women yelling." There's that one.
You're in for a treat. So Bischoff is out with those four goofs, and he introduces Jeff Hardy as the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And as Bischoff is ranting, they do an insert. They don't cut away. They do an insert showing Ric Flair arriving. They did not have 20 seconds in 2 hours to give this its own little segment. He signed Matt Hardy and AJ Styles for later on tonight. But that's not all. He announced that the network had demanded Jeff defend the title on television this week. "We need ratings," the network said. By the way, he never said Spike. He said the network over and over again. I guess because someone remembered the network from ECW shortly before that show went off the air.
Yeah, of all the angles in ECW to steal,
the network. So the network wanted Jeff versus RVD tonight. The match that they have spent months building up. Remember this?
Oh, yeah.
RVD got killed by Abyss and was forced to vacate the title. He never lost it in the ring. Jeff Hardy ends up getting the title.
On the same show Rob wrestled at.
And they tease and they tease and they tease. That's right. They actually had Rob Van Dam was back before they crowned a new champion. But they had to strip the title of him.
Right.
I guess because they wanted to build up to an eventual Jeff Hardy RVD match.
That's what it seemed like.
Well, after literally like 5 months, they announced they're giving the match away for free tonight.
They actually put up the graphic for this to open the show. And here is where I thought, no. Not even TNA can do this. This has to be a bait and switch. They will do a 1 minute match with a DQ, or Immortal will attack RVD and take him out. They won't do the match. Something will go awry. They can't be this dumb.
Well, they are. And you know what? If you want to do this match on TV for ratings, great. But, and I realize that no one in the history of the world would have known this had Rock not drawn a rating on Monday, being a fucking surprise. But, you could build it up for a week.
You can announce next week. In fact, they did announce a match for next week. It's not the one they've been building to for 5 months.
No.
They built up to it for 40 minutes.
They can even say, call your friends, because next week on this very show, we're finally going to give you the match we've been building up for all of these months. Nope. Tonight, for free. So, Bischoff called out Rick, and, of course, he came down to the ring and did a Ric Flair promo, called himself God, went all nutty, said that he was going to bring the family back together. That being, I guess, Fortune and whatever the other name, Immortal. And then he left. So, anyway, complete nonsense.
Yes, it was. They Bischoff did not know. Flair had not spoken to him in weeks, and they could not explain why. So whatever. We had a bit of the Jarretts, Jeff and Karen sharing a massage. They talked about how happy they were and what a great dad Jeff was, and how they were going to fuck later. Almost in those exact words.
We had clips of AJ jumping Matt Hardy backstage. Not clips from earlier, like this just happened.
Yes.
AJ jumped Matt. Then all of Immortal ran in and attacked AJ. Then Fortune showed up to make the save. Everyone was fighting, and 30 seconds later, it just vanished. It did not make me want to see the match one single bit, at which point they cut back to the announcers, and today calmly began recapping what happened at the pay-per-view Sunday. So he didn't give a shit. Taz didn't give a shit. I don't give a shit. So why the fuck did they do this?
Why did they do anything? No one gives a shit. They keep doing shows.
Hernandez ran into Sarita and Rosita backstage. They're all Mexicans, apparently. Hispanics. And he's literally 3 times Rosita's size.
Oh, yeah. And he met them. They appeared very, very familiar. And then he left with both of them. So the only guy on the show cool enough to get 2 chicks is, in fact, the newly heel Hernandez.
Hernandez faced Doug Williams. And Velvet came down during this match and attacked Sarita and Rosita. And, of course, she ran down, and they immediately beat her up. So then Angelina ran down, and they had a cat fight right in the middle of this fucking wrestling match.
Uh-huh.
So they fight, and they fight, and they fight, and then Geeks break it up. They cut back to the ring, and Hernandez hoists up Douglas Williams and wildly and completely carelessly gives him a border toss right onto his head.
This was sickening and disgusting.
If you read the update Tuesday, you are well aware that Douglas Williams is, in fact, completely fine. And apparently he knew upon landing, holy shit, that looked bad, because he stayed down. They brought out the stretcher. They did the whole injury deal. And everyone in the crowd apparently thought that he'd been killed. And I guess there apparently were reports on the internet that he'd been killed and they stopped the match and this and that. I don't know where those came from. That was not the case. But the point is, they made a big deal out of this live. And then on television, they showed 2 brief replays in the span of about 2 seconds. Cut away, never mention it again. They didn't show the stretcher job, nothing.
Nope. All
this
for naught.
Fell into their lap. Although, quite frankly, Hernandez being unprofessional is probably the bigger issue. But still, when something like this happens, why would you not use it to try to get over how dangerous Hernandez is? Why would you just cut away? I'll tell you why. Because they had too much shit on the show that they had to get in, more important than this.
They had 14 Sarita segments to get to. I don't know. It was... Of all the things to be angry about in the show, this is the most important one. Hernandez had Doug Williams' life literally in his hands and didn't give a shit.
No.
Did not give a shit.
I got some emails the next day about this. Not from anybody in TNA, but from others who have worked with Hernandez. And suffice to say, essentially I was alerted, if you're ever going to take this move, don't. Hernandez will throw you and not care.
Great.
I don't know if that's the case, but that's certainly what this person told me.
That was the case here. I don't know if that's the case every other time. But this he threw him in midair, and even before Williams started to come down, Hernandez has already turned his back and was dancing.
He didn't care.
He didn't give a shit how he landed. Or if he ever walked again.
So, Bischoff was trying to talk to the network and trying to get them to take Jeff out of the match tonight, and they weren't into it. Then we had a segment which, again, we ask, why didn't they make a bigger deal out of Doug Williams nearly dying? Well, it's because of stuff like this. Pope was in the ring, made up like a luau. There was a table with a pig on it, and he said, just like Jesus with the fishes and the loaves of bread, I am going to feed you masses with this one pig. And Joe then came out. They had a brawl. Joe gave him a muscle buster through the table and the pig, which was in fact a legit pig.
It was a shoot pig.
How gross. I
was actually... I didn't know how much a roast pig cost. From what I can gather, it seems to be in the $200 to $300 range. They did that, and it's not going to put them out of business, but was this skit worth $200 to $300?
No, it was not.
No.
I can tell you that as a fact, not an opinion.
Yes.
So they laid him out, and then Joe and Okato posed in the ring. Why are Joe and Okato friends?
Don't know.
I'd sure like to know.
Pope was giving this speech with this pig.
Why the fuck would I care about this show or anybody involved in it? I don't understand anything about any of them.
Okay. Pope is giving a speech. He says Ronald Reagan and Michael Jackson and Jesus believed in him. As he is talking, he picks up a large knife and says he's about to slice up the pig and serve it to the people. Samoa Joe interrupts, and Pope is so scared, so nervous, that he puts down the big knife.
Of course.
I should also mention, by the way, Pope was bragging about how he hunted down the pig or whatever bullshit he was talking about. I had to think about it, but when I thought about it, I did remember Pope lost that match.
Yeah.
Once again, wins and losses, they mean less than nothing.
No shit.
The loser is portrayed as the winner.
Oh, what a shocker that revelation is.
I can't even say it don't matter. There's a negative correlation to losing and believing and being a bigger star. Or whatever. So anyway, Pope puts the knife down. So now Joe can fight him like a man. Pope is willing to fight like a man, and then Joe needs Kato to kick Pope so Joe can attack him with an advantage.
Yeah.
And then he put him through the pig.
Can Dead Sea Drop on our board possibly explain to me why Joe and Okato are friends? Because if there's one thing I know from watching TNA for many years, it's that Joe hates everyone and is a complete asshole on Impact. So why is he friends with Okato, of all people?
I don't know.
I'd like some sort of explanation for this. And the dogs. Don't even give me the dogs and the children.
We're over that now? Water under the bridge?
Sure. Robbie E and Cookie were in the ring. They actually used the term TNA management. Welcome to 2005. Although, in this case, who the fuck are TNA management? Is it Eric?
I think it's Eric and
Is
Hogan.
it Dixie?
Perhaps we will find out when the trial is over.
Is there a mystery TNA management group that I'm unaware of? Because that's sure what it sounded like here. So he wanted a rematch. They cut backstage, and there's Kazarian making out with Tracy Brooks. Out of nowhere, Tracy is back, and they're acknowledging she's married to Kazarian. He said he'd do a match if Cookie was sent backstage. So they sent Cookie backstage, and the finish is Cookie coming out and hitting him for the DQ. Hey, at least the ref called for a DQ this time.
It is true. This is what happened. So, yes. In fact, not only did she hit him with her giant bag, whatever it was, but then she got the mount and proceeded to choke him out.
And he just laid there.
He's getting choked out by Cookie.
I realized he'd been jumped, but he just laid there while Cookie was choking him.
They couldn't have Robbie E hold his arms while Cookie slapped him. No.
You were laid out so completely that you did not have the strength to push Cookie off of you.
Yeah. So Tracy came out and they brawled.
What does that say about Cookie?
She's more dangerous than Robbie E.
Wasn't exactly what I was insinuating.
Also fat.
I did not say that. So Tracy came out, and they put her in a shirt to make sure you could see nothing but breasts, and there was a brawl. And, wow. So is Tracy part of Fortune now?
I guess we'll get a mixed tag.
Is she...
Wasn't the world just waiting for that?
Trying to think of a tits joke out of Fortune. I can't.
It's too hard tonight.
Yeah.
Speaking of Fortune, Flair met with him backstage. They were all buddy-buddy. Best friends in the world.
Mm-hmm. Long-lost brothers.
Long-lost brothers. He iced them. He had multiple bottles of Smirnoff. But then when AJ went to chug his, Flair said, no, you have a match tonight. Because Ric Flair does not approve of drinking before wrestling matches.
If only he'd known AJ was facing Matt Hardy.
That was high comedy right there.
AJ and Matt had a match, and Matt has trimmed down, as I noted on Sunday, but he's still got a jiggly midsection, and that was kind of disgusting. Then they had this match.
That was also disgusting.
Holy fuck. Matt works him over for a bit. AJ makes a comeback, does his drop down into a dropkick spot. Matt actually trips running the ropes and hits the middle rope like a midget.
Well, he tripped over AJ. So one of two things happened, or both. Either Matt was so slow.
What about the phantom backdrop out of a Styles Clash that just didn't happen?
Where he went for a backdrop and AJ just pushed off and landed on his feet?
And said go?
And said go. He did say go loudly. That was their planned spot, I suppose. But either Matt was so clumsy, or I should say so slow, that he could not keep up with AJ in the spot, or AJ's timing was so badly off that he deliberately tripped Matt Hardy. Of the two, who was more likely to screw the spot up?
Let's think about this.
How many thousands of times have we seen AJ do this?
He does this in every match.
How often does it go this badly?
It has never gone this badly.
Okay, then.
And by the way, the time that this happened to me, it was my first match, and I'd had no professional training whatsoever.
And also, you're 5'7". You can almost hit the middle rope anyway.
So anyway, they had a match. It was horrible. That wasn't horrible, but the end was horrible. AJ went up top. Flair, who was down there with AJ, shoved him off. Matt hit the twist of hate for the pin. This did not result in booing.
No.
The crowd just went silent.
Uh-huh.
The Impact Zone hadn't seen another bullshit swerve.
Yes.
Then they doubled on AJ and Fortune ran down. Do they really think that moving out of the building, the fans are not going to just go quiet when they see another bullshit swerve? Because it would seem to me that if you go on the road for Impact, the only people you're going to fucking draw are the people that already go to Impact. So they're going to have seen 8 million stupid swerves. So if you show them the same swerve you showed the people at the Impact Zone, they also will go silent.
I just want to mention that in this show, by this point, we had seen Ric Flair return, we had seen Ric Flair reunite with Fortune, and we had seen him turn on Fortune.
Yeah.
I believe the show was no more than an hour old. Mm-hmm. We saw a month of storylines in 1 hour. I know we've seen it before. I know we'll see it again. It still blows me away.
Jeff and Karen were making out in a hot tub. Go away heat this was. Why would I want to see that?
At least she wasn't shrieking.
Karen said she was going to have her dream wedding on March 3rd.
At Impact.
Her dream wedding is at the Impact Zone.
No wonder, yeah.
I was going to say, well, Kurt made the right decision.
Things worked out best for him. Anderson came out, called out Bischoff. He was pissed off that RVD was getting a title shot tonight because, after all, he had just lost the title at the pay-per-view and he did not get a rematch yet. The crowd was chanting triple threat. They ignored them. Bischoff said it was all about ratings. The network demanded they put RVD in the match. Anderson said that if you want ratings, you should put me in there. Bischoff told him the network is upset with your coarse language and your hand gestures. Said he needed to PG himself down. Insider comments, everybody. So Anderson said he likes to say asshole. The crowd likes it. He's going to keep saying it. And he finally relented and said, I'll try to behave a little more. And Bischoff offered to make him a special ref. And Anderson shook his hand and then lead him out with a mic check, which I took to mean, fuck you and your special ref offer. But then later he just came out in the striped shirt.
And was a nice referee to try and get his title shot.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson was the most blatant Stone Cold Steve Austin ripoff in history during this segment. Why do they try?
I don't know.
Why? It's not going to work.
He's not Steve Austin.
He's Prince Iakea.
Really?
He's a trash-talking... Well, I'm just saying, Prince Iakea was WCW's answer to The Rock.
I see.
And that didn't work out for them.
Anderson, I'm trying to think of who was being answered to Austin. C.W. Anderson? Just something lame.
What?
Who? Well, that's a bad example, obviously. Who's an Austin knockoff?
Mr. Anderson!
There's got to be somebody closer than this.
No! He steals everything. He may as well shake his head back and forth and have an Anderson 316 shirt, which I can't believe they haven't done yet.
That would be a much better gimmick than what they're doing with him.
So then we had...
He was here.
What?
Then we had the segment with Velvet Winter.
Oh, no.
Hey, you know what?
No.
Listen.
This I gotta hear.
No one raised their voices in this segment.
What?
Compared to what they usually do, where they are all shrieking as loud as they possibly can.
Okay, they weren't screeching, they were merely yelling.
An improvement.
Velvet was bitching at Winter in the most heelish manner possible.
As usual.
I don't know who I'm supposed to like in this feud. I hate every single one of them. Angelina tried to talk some sense into them, and the best I could come up with here is that it is some sort of weird lesbian love triangle where Velvet thinks Angelina is fucking Winter and she's wildly jealous.
That's pretty close, I think.
I mean, Winter grabbed Angelina's hand and said something like, "You're the only one for me," or something like that. And this caused Velvet to just flip her lid.
Uh-huh. You are as close to anything that makes sense as I can think of.
Has to be a lesbian storyline.
Yes. I don't have a better option. Like I say, their volume, which is usually cranked to a 10, was at about a 6 here. Fine. So
who is Velvet feuding with? Is she feuding with Winter?
Yes.
Or is she feuding with Sarita?
Both. She hates everyone.
She's a babyface.
She hates everyone, and everyone hates her, and she is the babyface, yes.
Then they had the goddamn worst fucking match of all time.
Listen.
This was worse than the Bushwhackers against the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov.
This is the worst match of 2011, and when I say that, I don't just mean so far. There will not be a match worse than this by a major company. I promise you.
Vince, you're wrong. Vince, at least this was a tag team match, and for half the match, Velvet Sky was not in the ring. We are going to get Velvet Sky against Sarita in a singles match. Who are the two worst working together in this match? Velvet and Sarita. And they're going to do a singles battle. That will be worse than this.
I will say that Angelina was no better than Velvet here.
Angelina, the skinnier she gets, the worse she works, I've noticed.
Her stuff looks so phony.
And by the way, why is Velvet teaming with Angelina if Angelina's tag team championship partner is Winter?
I don't know.
This match was so bad, I watched it twice.
He did. We watched the entire thing over again.
I was so in awe that I had to rewind it and watch it again to make sure that I had seen what I had seen. Velvet is beyond hope. She's a very pretty girl, but she is one of those rare wrestlers who gets worse with experience.
Yeah, and she's getting worse at a faster rate. It's like the slope is getting steeper and steeper as she declines.
It's like compound interest.
In reverse, yes. They had the heat.
She is getting worse exponentially.
Yeah. They had the heat on her. They were beating her up.
No, they didn't. Hold on a second.
I
don't know what match you were watching. There was no shine, there was no heat, and there was no comeback. Everyone did a whole bunch of... I watched it twice to try to figure out, where is the heat? Where is anything in this match?
It was not very good. They were beating up Velvet. Rosita hit a chin breaker on her. Remember this because Taz mentioned her great flexibility. Rosita hits this chin breaker and walks over and tags in Sarita. Then, before Sarita can get in the ring, who should cut her off? Not Angelina. No, Velvet.
Yes, because there was no fucking heat.
Velvet fired up. She threw Sarita into the ring, and she ran wild.
No, Vinny. First off, everyone listen to me. There was no fucking heat in this match. Everyone took turns doing moves on each other, and Vinny is very badly downplaying when she threw her into the ring. She attempted to hip toss Sarita from the apron to the inside, and Sarita went up in the air and then just came down on her side.
Yes.
She did not do a flip. She did not roll. She just went up and came down. At least she made it over the rope somehow. I don't even know how.
Not even close to the worst bump she would take.
They did some horrendous lucha. The highlight of which was Velvet. By the way, let me repeat. Velvet and Sarita, who are going to be doing a singles match here soon. Velvet and Sarita did a head scissors spot, which not only was the head scissors the fucking worst spinning head scissors I've ever seen, like... Kelly is mystico compared to Velvet Sky trying this move. They fuck it up, and as Sarita, a luchador, is trying to do a roll out of it, she went one way, her head went another way, and she landed on her head and neck and did this... I don't even know what it was. I have no idea how she didn't break her neck. I have absolutely no idea how she did not break her neck. And then...
There's more!
The finish. Velvet hooks Sarita again... Velvet and Sarita. Velvet hooks Sarita for a DDT. Now, Sarita, I don't even know what was supposed to happen, but I presume that Sarita was supposed to hold onto the ropes and Velvet would take her own bump. That's not what happened. Velvet sets up for a DDT, and Rosita on the outside grabs Velvet's foot, which causes Velvet to just take a bump. I watched this twice. I have no idea what they were trying to do. It defied the laws of physics, what actually happened. And at that point, then Sarita covered her with her feet on the ropes, and Rosita held the ropes, and Velvet kicked her feet like she was doing flutter kicks in a yoga class and was pinned. Holy Jesus, this was bad.
The show was not live.
And afterwards, Velvet cut, God bless her, a horrendous promo on Sarita. She hates everybody. She wanted a match next week with no cheating.
Yes, that's her exact words, everyone. She was upset that Sarita could only beat her by cheating. Because God forbid somebody cheat on Impact.
And you know what she said? She said, I want a match next week with no outside interference. And I thought, you mean a cage match? Foolish me! Of course fucking not! They have no idea what a cage match is all about. They're just going to have a match where the stipulation is no outside interference. So I guess... I don't know what the fuck. No one's going to run in?
I guess...
How are they going to enforce this?
I guess in regular matches, outside interference is encouraged.
So...
A no outside interference match.
Yeah.
That's their match, Brian.
This I gotta see.
There is no outside interference and apparently no cheating. These are the rules.
Sarita told her to up the ante. How about in a cage, she said. Of course not! Do you really fucking believe that for a second? No. It's Impact. She said, next week you must put your career on the line. I swear to God that's what she said.
Another fucking retirement angle.
Yeah, and keep in mind on the show that Kurt Angle returned in the very next fucking segment after retiring on Sunday. This is the worst of TNA.
It was.
I'm not even going to bother. I swear to you, I will never write Death of TNA. If the company dies, just put this segment on YouTube and be done with it. This right here is why TNA never succeeded. Because they don't know how to do anything. They can't do anything right.
Case in point. The Jarretts were in a limousine. They were talking about food. All the food they're going to have at their dinner. The crab and the champagne and whatever. Then we get a shot of Kurt Angle, who I guess said he was going to crash the party.
How did he know where they were, what they were doing?
Where they were going?
Did he install a hidden camera in the limo? Was him and the limo driver in cahoots? How did he know any of this?
We saw him stepping into a car. I thought perhaps he had taken the limo driver's spot. No, it's a different car.
It gets worse.
Oh, it will get worse when we get to the payoff of that.
Madison issued an open challenge. Scott Steiner did a promo saying...
This went 8 seconds.
Yeah. They cut to Scott Steiner and he says, next week, Rob Terry wants a pose down with me?
To which my reply was, he does?
He did?
How do you know?
I did not know this.
Nobody told me.
So Steiner said, next week I'll shove my fist down Rob Terry's throat. Cut away. Never heard about it again. Why bother?
What a goddamn awful television show this was.
Then they did this long-ass video package for the Jeff Hardy RVD feud. Jeff did a pre-fight promo. They're building this up like it's a big epic match. The one we announced 90 minutes ago. Sucked.
We got another 5-second promo, this time from Jeff Hardy, saying he would end Rob Van Dam's legend. Then we had the payoff to the Jeff and Karen thing we'd seen throughout the show. They were having dinner. They were apparently the only people in this restaurant eating. The food was bad, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
They had bad food.
Didn't know. It was, the big issue was the wine.
The wine was especially bad, but they're complaining about all the other food. And turns out this is Kurt Angle's revenge. After they screwed him out of getting custody of his children. He got his revenge by following them around, going to the restaurant, going into the kitchen, sneaking into the kitchen, and sabotaging their meal.
No, not sneaking, Vinny. He was wearing a chef suit. So, apparently, and by the way, this occurred less than 5 minutes after we had the information that Kurt was going to go spoil their party. So, in 5 minutes, Kurt found the building, they ate their entire meal, they began to bitch, Kurt snuck in, maybe not even stuck, he went in, he made a deal with the chef, he put on the outfit, he cooked the food, he served the wine, all of this in 5 minutes. And again, this was his revenge.
Mm-hmm.
He made them bad food.
Not even poison food. Just poor quality. And then he came out of the kitchen.
They fucked up one of the easiest angles in the history of man. They fucked up Kurt, Karen, and Jeff. I can't even conceive of this. I know I say this all the time. I mean, people are asking, can you really not conceive of this, Brian? Yes, I actually can't. I did not think that they could screw this up this badly. They've made this just impossible to care about.
They have made this with the exact same angle, by the way.
They made this Impact.
No, they have done the exact same angle that we saw with Miz and Morrison versus the Colons. Except you know the difference? That was entertaining.
What in the hell do Miz and Morrison against the Colons have to
Remember
do
the
with
skit
anything?
they did in the restaurant?
No, I've forgotten.
They did a great, funny skit with the Bellas. Where Miz and Morrison were on a date with the Bellas, and the Colons gave them bad food.
I vaguely remember this.
That was a mid-card comedy feud. This is theoretically their biggest star going for revenge on the guy who's banging his ex-wife.
Yeah. He cooked food for them.
Bad food.
Yeah.
We had RVD cutting a promo, said he would win tonight. Mike Tenay started talking about how Spike would not let them show the video of the D-Von, Bubba Ray angle from the pay-per-view, which is too bad because it was really good.
I thought they wanted ratings.
He said D-Von has been in seclusion. Then before they could talk anymore, Bully Ray interrupted.
I actually wrote bulky, which was a typo, but it was
It fits.
so funny I left it in there.
It fits. This is actually a really good segment, honestly. He was talking shit.
No, it wasn't. Listen.
He was being a bully.
Yeah, he was being a bully, and then Taz stood up to him, and he backed down.
Yeah.
They're never going to have a match.
Well, that's true. You got to get.
Small little detail there.
You got to have the announcer.
He backed down to a fucking announcer, and they're never going to. At least Miz and Lawler actually had a fucking match.
Yes.
These guys are never going to touch again.
Because Ray is a coward. I'll defend it that way. He is, at the end of the day, always a coward. That's why he picked on Tenay and backed down from Taz. Because Taz is a bigger badass than him.
So I don't. So what's the point? We're supposed to care about someone beating up Bully Ray?
I guess so, yeah.
Really? The only thing I got out of this is everyone's going to want to see Taz against Bulky Ray, and they're not going to see
They're not going to get that. No, I don't disagree with that. So we had the main event, the long-awaited central storyline of the entire company match, the big blow-off here, Jeff Hardy versus Rob Van Dam with Mr. Anderson as referee.
With no heat.
With no heat, with no build.
Mr. Anderson, holy Jesus. Everyone knows I'm not the biggest fan of Mr. Anderson, but can this guy do anything right? He played referee. The idea was he called it down the middle. That was the storyline here. Mr. Anderson, go out there and call it down the middle. He managed to not only be the referee, the worst kind of referee there is, the one that, he's central to everything, but he was central to everything. Like a great referee you're not supposed to see. I'll just put it that way. You could not help but see Mr. Anderson because he was in the fucking way for everything. He was always right there. Uh-huh. And then the entire match, which was profoundly average, the entire match built up to a spot where he was supposed to get trapped in the corner, and they couldn't even attempt to save this in editing.
No.
Jeff Hardy and RVD fought so fucking hard to try to get this idiot in the position to do this spot.
They virtually grabbed him and pushed him into the corner.
Oh my God.
It's amazing because, as you noted, he was in the way the entire match, except for the part where he was actually supposed to be in the way.
And then he was out of position.
And then they
couldn't even get him in the way.
It was like they were chasing him into the corner. They were chasing him around the ring. He was trying to evade them and finally was stuck there.
And RVD got a low blow from Jeff. And Jeff gave him a twist of fate, and Anderson counted the pin, and then Anderson laid them both out with a mic check. This was your big payoff to 5 months of waiting to see how they would pay off Jeff Hardy and RVD. They gave it to you for free with a shitty referee in a terrible match in the main event of a horrible show.
The show sucked.
This show sucked.
Let's leave.
I'm just so pissed off.
It's
Even burying the show didn't make me feel better.
I don't know what you want me to say, dude. It was a goddamn horrible episode of a goddamn horrible TV show.
I just don't get it.
I don't know why I'm going to watch the show. I cannot wait for the day they die.
It's been a long-ass time since we saw a show this bad. I seem to recall last week being bad, but nothing like this.
No. My recollection is the past, say, I don't know, month and a half have been up and down shows. Where there would be high points on the shows. What was the high point of this particular program?
Wasn't it last week that I said I review Impact, I get it all on my system,
Yes.
and then I just forget about it?
This one's going to linger.
I really hope I can sleep tonight.
This one's going to haunt you.
That's how bad this show was. I feel like Lance. I'm not going to be able to go to sleep tonight. I'm going to be sitting in bed thinking about how fucking awful this show was. God.
It does boggle the mind.
It doesn't.
It does, though.
A bunch of idiots write a television show. Like a bunch of complete idiots trying to write wrestling that don't know a thing about it. What is shocking about this?
The fact that it keeps getting worse.
Worse, I mean.
Let's just do Impact. Everyone, this show is a failure. We're going to get through it as quick as we can.
I feel bad for the people that are trying to clear their throat every time they hear me speak. I believe Canada mentioned that. It's not going to work, everybody. You clearing your throat isn't helping me. You know what I've been taking to try and knock this issue is ephedrine. Bronchade.
No luck?
Oh, it actually clears me out like you won't believe. I'm just waiting until I'm about to go to bed to take one so that I can actually sleep. But right now I haven't taken one since like 6. So it's long since worn off.
Isn't ephedrine the one from... Oh, I see. So you will take it and then go to sleep, and so when it kicks in, you're already out?
No.
Isn't ephedrine the stuff that doesn't like hydroxycut?
Well, yeah, if you take it with caffeine.
I see.
I'm just taking ephedrine, which is what it's used for. It's called Bronchaid, to clear your bronchial tubes, of which mine are clogged.
With phlegm?
Yeah.
I see.
It dries you out like nobody's business. That's what I'm taking right now. Not at this moment, unfortunately. But when I take an ibuprofen, a Tylenol, and a Bronchaid, I feel pretty fucking good.
Who wouldn't?
I don't know. All right. I want to play a song.
Why? Just so you can not talk actually is a good answer.
What other answer would there be?
I don't know.
I've been shunned by my own grandmother. I'm on death's door. And I don't know what else, really. So, with all that said, everybody, let's play a tune. Pick a number between 1 and 20, Vinny.
10.
We're going to go back 10 pages then.
All right.
And I'm going to pick a song. Let's try this one from John Howe. How Bryan Parties. This should be good.
Hopefully it's just a...
I miss my old voice. I don't feel well.
Are you doing another song? Or
One more. Oh, it's a Mr. Russo one.
Perfect.
All right, I'm going to play this one, then we'll do Impact.
I want to punch Vince Russo right in the face.
Oh, blew up my damn ears. I wonder, did I say that one time that I wanted to punch him right in the face? He must have really had a bad show.
It's entirely believable.
I mean, this show is bad, but I don't have a desire to punch him.
Lance Storm has been reviewing WrestleManias lately.
Yeah.
And he's gotten to the point where he has not seen these WrestleManias because he was working.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got to, I think it was 15 or 16, one of those two. But he reviewed it and said, a lot of this doesn't make any sense to me here, but I'm sure it made sense at the time. And had to send him an email saying, no, it didn't.
Which one's he talking about?
He's talking about specifically the one where DX was still together going into Mania. You had Billy Gunn chasing the Intercontinental title and Road Dogg chasing the Hardcore title. And so you figure at WrestleMania they would both fulfill their quests. And then like a week before the show, they each won the opposite belt. So you had two completely random, pointless matches at Mania. And then Mania itself had Mankind versus Big Show to see who would be ref, and it's not clear why that's important enough to fight for. And then you have China turning on Kane, and then the same show, Hunter turning on DX and getting back with China.
This sounds horrible.
It was pretty horrible.
Yeah, people romanticize a little bit. All right, let's try this one right here. This one can't be bad.
How you doing, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer, and we're going to be here for the next 2 hours.
Start on Impact.
Let it go.
Let's get this over with.
Mr. Anderson came out.
I'm actually feeling better.
He was owed, his contract said he had a title rematch. He said he was not going to leave the ring until he got it. This turned out to be a lie. He said that he may be an asshole, but Rob Van Dam was not a law-abiding citizen.
Yeah.
So Rob came out.
Your top babyface came out and bitched that the network was mad at him for saying naughty words, but they weren't mad at RVD for being a pot smoker.
Right.
That's essentially what he said.
Yeah.
What a whiny bitch.
So Rob Van Dam came out. He wanted to know about the laws of morality and ethics and honor and professionalism. Said it was Anderson's job to ref a match, and so he shouldn't have gotten in the way. He said Anderson knew RVD was a better wrestler, and if Rob got the title first, then Anderson knew he would never get it.
Yes, Rob Van Dam and Mr. Anderson argue over who is a better worker.
That actually was an amazing debate. And Anderson said he didn't care. He just wanted his rematch, so Rob punched him.
No, you forgot. First they yelled at each other.
There was a lot of bickering. Rob punched him. They had a brawl. So Bischoff and the crew came out, and he said he was going to give Anderson a rematch tonight. Which
you forgot. Inept security broke it up.
That also happened.
This is very important that I mention this. You'll see why later.
Okay. Inept security broke it up. Bischoff said he was going to give Anderson a rematch, but instead he had a better idea. He was going to make it Anderson versus RVD, and then Jarrett whispered in his ear, and so he added Kurt Angle to the match as well to make it a three-way.
You're missing another key here. He said he was going to give Anderson the rematch.
Can anyone tell I'm no longer trying?
He said that Anderson was going to give him a rematch until he saw the ratings draw before his eyes. So in other words, Anderson versus RVD is a bigger ratings draw than Anderson versus Jeff Hardy for the championship.
Whatever.
And TNA characters talking about ratings is the most infuriating thing in the world. Who gives a fuck about TNA ratings?
Is spitting up bile from his throat.
I literally coughed up phlegm in the middle of recapping Impact.
Yes.
There's a drop for the ages right there.
The point is, the main event of this show, by the time all said and done, was Anderson versus RVD versus Kurt Angle.
I feel like I'm regurgitating phlegm into the microphone. It's healing me.
Regurgitation. Scott Steiner was backstage talking about beer and muscles, talking about his pose down with Rob Terry when Eric Young appeared behind him with no shirt, posing by himself. Steiner tried to throw him out. Eric wouldn't go. Went on for a long time. It was incredibly unfunny. At first, Scott was the biggest babyface on earth because he was shouting and screaming at Eric Young to shut up and leave. But then, because he did not kill him, he turned into a heel. A babyface would have murdered this man.
Yeah.
Speaking of...
Total nonstop yelling.
Speaking of infuriating segments, the Jarretts went wedding dress shopping. Karen didn't like any of the dresses. She was being bitchy. Kurt had some ideas. Who cares?
I was not involved in this process prior to my wedding, thank God.
That was wise. Yes, just wear whatever you want. I will meet you at the altar. Kurt?
That is essentially exactly how it went.
I did great. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not wearing the dress.
Kurt's, yet. Kurt was watching this video, and he said this showed they were not the perfect couple. He promised to give them a wedding they would never forget, and said he was in a bad mood tonight for the three-way dance. We're not going to match that I am not going to make up here. This really happened on television before my eyes. Gunner and Murphy versus Orlando Jordan and Eric Young in the tag team match from hell. So they're about to wrestle when Beer Money comes out to watch. Why would anyone do this? Why would you stop what you were doing and come out to watch this match?
They were scouting. They get the winners next week. This was a number one contenders match.
That's not a good enough reason. I still wouldn't watch it.
Vinny, Gunner and Murphy against Eric Young and Orlando Jordan in a number 1 contenders match.
Yes, I understand your point. These were theoretically the second and third best teams in TNA.
Gunner and Murphy.
And that's awful.
Or Murphy and Eric, actually. Eric Young and Murphy fucked up a schoolboy.
Well, Murphy mostly.
This is when you close up shop. This is when you just give up.
He is pretty horrible. He's, he did fuck up the schoolboy to an amazing degree. He almost concussed himself.
He almost blew out his own knee.
Yes, taking the schoolboy. He managed to hurt his head, neck, and knee, taking a schoolboy.
You know what amazed me about this was, so, first off, did they do like a single vignette to explain how Gunner and Murphy went from dork security guards to wrestlers?
Of course not.
And who did they beat to become number 1 contenders anyway?
Nobody.
Or to become number 2 contenders?
Nobody. This was their first win.
Second, Gunner and Murphy are heels. This was when I got pissed off. I was trying so hard to just not care. Eric Young and Orlando Jordan are baby faces, I think.
Are you sure?
If I'm mistaken, someone can correct me.
I have no idea.
So in this match, they get the heat on Eric, and he is selling a babyface in peril. So he makes a brief comeback, and does he make a tag?
No.
No. What he does is he stops, he stands in the middle of the ring, he pulls down his pants to reveal that he's wearing, I believe, Team Canada gear. He proceeds to fire up, he pumps his fist, and he is immediately clotheslined to death, and then they hit him with a move and pin him. A complete moron.
It is worse than that, because that happened up to the point where he was clotheslined to death. Orlando Jordan then came in to protest, against his own tag team partner for being a pussy. And as Orlando was protesting, Murphy laid him out. So Orlando looked like a complete buffoon. Then Gunner and Murphy went to do a tag team finisher. Their timing was horrible. I blame Murphy. I've determined he's the shitty one. And they pinned Eric Young to become the second best tag team in TNA, and poor Beer Money is going to have to wrestle these men.
Next week. This was no good.
This was terrible. And you know what? It was 1,000 times better than the women's tag match last week.
Yeah.
Angelina met with Velvet Sky. Their volumes were on about a scale of 3 on a scale of 1 to 10, so that's good. She basically advised Velvet to not put her career on the line next week. Velvet said she needed some time alone.
No, you missed the key here.
Of course I did.
Angelina's trying to talk Velvet into putting a career on the line. And what is Velvet's comeback? She says, well, what would you do if you were in my position? And Angelina calmly says, well, I wouldn't put my career on the line. And that's when Velvet said, I need some time alone. I need to collect my thoughts. She's had a week to collect her thoughts. She's got another week before the match. What's her fucking hurry? This was dumb.
Yeah. There were some good things in the show, and this is one of them.
No, this was not.
Well, it started off good. You're right. I take it back. By the end, it was horrible. The beginning of this was awesome. D-Von Dudley came out for a promo. He was still distraught over what had happened to his sons. He apologized to Terrence and Terrell. He said the father's worst dream was not being able to protect his kids. He said the boys had called Bubba uncle and that they loved him, and he had put his hands on them. Said this was not going answered. The most amazing thing about this promo was not D-Von's delivery, although that was awesome. The crowd for this promo was in complete and utter silence in a good way.
Yes.
Because they cared what this man had to say, and they respected him. This was an intense silence. This was not indifferent silence. That part was awesome. Then it went downhill quickly.
Stop right there. This is why I hate TNA, and I hate Vince Russo's booking. All you had to fucking do is have D-Von Dudley come out and do this exact same promo in front of this exact same crowd, say his piece, and then leave. That's all you've got to do. But, of course not. D-Von comes out and cuts a great promo. The crowd is like, when you use the term hanging on every word, they were hanging on every word out of this man's mouth. And then, of course, they had to do a angle. Bubba appears backstage. He's beating on some fella. I was trying to figure out, who is this man? It was a black fellow. I thought, is this one of D-Von's sons? This person was not identified. Bubba's just beating on him.
Ever.
So I'm thinking, okay, it probably is not one of D-Von's sons, because D-Von's just standing there.
Yep.
He's not running back to make the save. He's just watching to see what is going to unfold. So D-Von's beating on the guy, stomping on him, and he finally reveals who this was. You want to know who it was? He said, and I quote, "It's one of your brothers." An actual brother? A bro? The fuck does this mean?
His exact words were, one of your own, one of your brothers.
One of your own, one of your brothers.
So it was in storyline and in the character Bubba Ray Dudley's voice, a random black man.
I guess.
Yes, and he apparently thought this would offend D-Von so deeply that D-Von would, I don't know. But
I don't know what the fuck was going on.
But in fact, D-Von didn't give a shit.
No, D-Von just stood there. So clearly,
and why should he?
This was not kin.
No.
So Bubba threatened to put this brother through a table, and then Tommy Dreamer showed up and went to work on Bubba.
Yes.
Tommy Dreamer. So now, I swear to God, Bubba is being bullied 2-on-1. Dreamer's working over. D-Von goes after him with a chair. Geeks broke it up. And as the Geeks are breaking it up, Bubba disappears. And suddenly, Tommy is down. And the crowd is dead quiet. Now it's not in a good way.
No.
It's in a, hold on, what the fuck happened? Why is Tommy down? At which point, Taz, who the crowd cannot hear, explains that apparently D-Von tried to hit Bubba and accidentally hit his friend like a goddamn idiot. This was so stupid.
Yes. That was, by the end, that was a terrible segment.
Why can't you just have a guy cut a great promo? Is it that fucking hard?
Yes.
Do you have to write for him? Do you have to be creative? Just let the guy cut a promo and be pissed off. He wasn't even yelling, thank God.
More segments of people not yelling. Madison was backstage. The cowardly heel told Tara to stay backstage. She wanted to prove that she could handle this on her own for her open challenge tonight. We had Crimson versus Magnus. Actually, on the whole, I really like this segment. Magnus cut a promo saying they were very similar, although he was better in every way. He said, they both had good bodies, so his was better. They both were ambitious, although he was more ambitious. The only difference was that he was not carrying Kurt Angle's bags. So Crimson attacked him, laid him out, went to work. Magnus cut him off briefly. The only thing about this segment I didn't like, Magnus did a signal. I will just say that. He moved his arms in a manner to indicate something. Tenay told us that is for his finishing move, the Mag Daddy Driver.
Yeah.
How in the hell do you know that's his finishing move when he's never, ever hit it?
Vinny, Dead Sea Drop is going to yell at us on the board because you're not watching Explosion, I'm sure.
Well, you're correct. No one watches Explosion. So, that's what he did. It did not work, so he should stop signaling for the Mag Daddy Driver. Crimson picked him up and hit a move. I don't know if I can describe. It was actually, frankly, amazing, but it sort of like the spinning body slam that I think Chris Harris used to do, except he stops in mid-motion and throws this large grown man backwards the other direction onto his face. I'm sure that's a horrible description. It looked really cool.
Wonder if they call him Crimson, besides the fact that he was supposedly Red's cousin, because he looks like a red-haired Christian. Crimson.
Sure.
just like Christian.
This was a fun TV match.
It's fine.
What happened next? We had a Rob Van Dam promo. I'm just going to quote one sentence from this verbatim. So what Rob Van Dam said. To be honest, I'm not even sure what tonight's main event is about anymore.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
They listed about a half dozen things it might be about. Amazing.
So Rob Terry came out for his pose down with Scott Steiner. First, he cut a promo. I don't think he's ever cut a promo before on TNA. He did fine. He said he wanted to prove that he was the real genetic freak in TNA. Called Steiner out. Steiner was wearing a suit. Said that Terry calling himself a genetic freak pissed him off. Told him to come up with his own nickname, something original like Chernobyl, because he's a chemical disaster.
So he said, a couple of vitamins away from a chemical disaster.
Scott Steiner, everyone. Scott Steiner accused another man of using drugs.
Yeah.
So he
supplements.
Sure. He called Terry a punk ass from bodybuilding trying to make it in his world, and he wasn't going to bother with the pose down. Terry asked him if he was afraid. Steiner said he was going to go get dressed to wrestle, and if Terry was still there when he got back, he was going to kick his ass.
Why didn't he come out to dress to wrestle in the first place? They were supposed to have a bodybuilding contest.
I don't know. I don't care. Terry said it was typical of an American to run away from someone younger and stronger and smarter and bigger. Scott said, you want to see who's bigger? Didn't bother arguing about the younger and smarter part. And he started to take his jacket off. Terry hit him with a gimmick and choked him with those stretchy bands that bodybuilders use. It was a fine segment, all in all.
Yeah, way to go, Scott.
He was, in fact, not smarter. Rob Terry was smarter than Scott Steiner. We know that now.
You know, the reason I did care about why he was out in a suit was because the very next in-ring segment was supposed to be Flair versus AJ, and for the second straight segment in a row, back-to-back, a guy was supposed to wrestle, and he came out in a suit. You can't just have one guy do that on this goddamn show.
That's true. They did advertise Flair and AJ as a match, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Winter.
So, yeah. Much like, the winter that's outside our window. Velvet came back to her locker room. Winter was there. Velvet was upset. Winter said people were doubting Velvet's abilities, but she was not one of them. She said she wanted to see Velvet prove herself, like when she and Angelina won the tag titles. This made Velvet jealous and angry. She said that when she was done with Sarita, she was coming for Winter.
Is Velvet a lesbian? Why is she so pissed off?
Yes, I believe that is the story, in fact.
All right, well, if that's the story, great.
It is a lesbian love triangle. There's no other explanation. Jeff and Karen were talking to a preacher about their ceremony.
When I'm done with Sarita's ass, she said, I'm coming after yours, bitch.
Yes.
What a great baby face. How lovable.
I don't know.
I'd love to take her home to mom.
None of the women in this company are baby faces. We've established
Half
this.
are supposed to be, Vince.
No, we've established this. They're all evil bitches. Because that's how Vince Russo sees women.
Oh, my God.
We had Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett talking to a preacher about their ceremony to review their ceremony to renew their vows. This is one that was so bad I couldn't help but laugh. First of all, they were talking about Kurt Angle. The preacher did not know who Kurt Angle was. Because you see, no one in TNA is a star. So they tried to explain what they wanted him to do, and he was much like Don West used to be the voice of Bryan Vinny, pointing out how things don't make sense and are unbelievable. The preacher could not fathom that these people had put the custody of children up at stake in a wrestling match.
Yes.
He called it, and then they wanted to have a ceremony where the ex-husband would give his wife away. He called this blasphemy. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Jarrett said, straightforward, mildly offended, no, it's not. It's non-denominational. And then it cut away.
And you laughed uproariously.
I laughed uproariously at that line. I think it was the disdain in his voice. Like Jeff Jarrett took this as a shot.
Yeah.
That it was blasphemy. I may have been the only one who laughed at this. That's entirely possible.
Then we had the best fucking segment of all time, and I'm saying that facetiously.
By best, you mean worst.
It was supposed to be Ric Flair versus AJ Styles. So Flair becomes the second man on the show to come out in a suit instead of his gear. So he calls out AJ, and he's all pissed off. First, he's pissed that Fortune had not told him that they were turning babyface. And he was also pissed, he said, that James Storm was not drinking with him last night. Did they forget that Flair turned on them a week ago, or is it just me? So, AJ said, we didn't tell you because you tried and talk us out of it. Flair said it was time to teach you some respect. He slapped him. This is where it got great. AJ tackles Flair, and who should run in to make the save but Hernandez? So, and by the way, I was waiting during this segment for Geeks to run in for what would have been the 4th time on this show. They had Geeks run in 3 different segments in the first hour. Talk about overkill. Amazingly, Geeks did not run in. Because you see, Hernandez went after AJ, and AJ backdropped him outside, laid him out, and went after Flair again.
So for the tally, that's 1 run-in for Hernandez, and 1 time AJ beat him up like a geek.
Don't interrupt me, Vinny.
All right.
So AJ backdrops Hernandez outside, goes after Flair. Moments later, Hernandez comes back in. He attacks AJ again. Now, remember all those times we've talked about, if you're going to beat up a guy, why don't you just beat him up? Why do you have to beat him up, and then he makes his own comeback, and then you beat him up again, and then he makes his own comeback, and then you beat him up again, for real this time? Why don't you just beat the fucking guy up? This set new standards. AJ beats up Hernandez. Hernandez comes back. AJ makes a second comeback. A series of low blows. Lays out Hernandez. AJ sends Flair to the barricade. Flair gigs. Hernandez comes back a 3rd time. He attacks AJ again. AJ proceeds to do a flip dive and lays him out a 3rd time. Proceeds to start ripping off all of Flair's clothes. About to do a Styles Clash. Hernandez runs in for the 4th time. Fortune runs down. They clear the ring. I don't know where the fuck they were this whole time.
My today's exact words were, finally, here comes Fortune.
So, after they clear the ring, I swear to God, Hernandez gets taken out a 4th fucking time. This time by Matt Morgan. 4. They're going to kill me last. 4 fucking times.
This was another segment where by the end I was laughing uproariously, much like no doubt many of you doing it right now. Just I could not believe the stupidity of this. What a complete chump Hernandez is. It's a hell of a return he made. He got beat up by AJ over and over and over and over again, and then he was also beaten up by Matt Morgan.
I don't deserve this.
This was and Ric Flair bled for this, by the way.
Of course
he did. This was a death of TNA moment, by which I mean you could show someone saying a company like this, think about the company that made this segment. You would say they would die, and you would say they did.
Yeah.
This horrible. But again, it was so horrible, I was laughing uproariously. Anderson cut a promo backstage.
I don't know if I can go on.
All he cares about is the TNA title. So next week is their March 3rd Impact. They're pushing it very heavily for in a variety of ways. One of which, the verdict for the Dixie Carter versus Hulk Hogan court case is going to be announced on Impact next week. A lawsuit in a Texas court is going to have its verdict announced between the hours of 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern on Spike Television.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's so stupid, no one can take it seriously and no one cares. So Madison came out for the open challenge. She said she had beaten everyone from Angelina to Velvet to Mickie. She wanted a new challenger, and out came ODB. Taz greeted her with these words, "Oh God, they're bigger." So they had a match.
I got a couple of questions.
All right.
Madison, when she came out, was talking about TNA management. And this came moments after they explained that next week the fate of the company would be determined based on whether Hulk or Dixie won a court case.
Mm-hmm.
So who the fuck is TNA management?
Nobody knows. Anderson actually talked about this in the opening segment. He had no idea who's in charge anymore. Is it Dixie? Is it Hogan? Is it Bischoff? Is it the network? Nobody knows.
Why in TNA are the babyfaces complete fucking incompetent morons?
Because the bookers are complete fucking incompetent morons.
And the heels are the ones that come out and issue open challenges and are fighting champions.
I don't know.
I have no idea what's going on.
Well, you see, this company is shit. And it's produced by people who produce shit.
So the heel issues an open challenge.
Right.
ODB accepts, and the heel beats her clean.
Just overcomes.
Yeah.
She's a conquering hero. So they also do this amazing spot.
This is why no one gives a shit about this show.
Yes. So Madison got the heat on ODB. She's working her over, and she goes for the move commonly known as the skull fuck. Only Velvet refuses to cooperate.
Velvet?
Or ODB. Jesus
How
Christ.
the fuck did you do that one?
I should be fired for that right there. ODB refuses to cooperate. She just won't go to her face. And so Madison just stops doing the move and moves on.
Velvet.
What an amazing... Yeah, I fucked up I fucked up worse than they did. That's for sure.
ODB should be called corduroy.
Burlap.
Is that abrasive enough?
Yes. So, yes, Madison won clean. I don't know if ODB is back full-time or not. If they brought her back full-time and had her lose just like this, that would be something that TNA would do. Speaking of Velvet, and this was Velvet, she confronted Sarita in their locker room. She said that basically she was willing to put her career on the line. Sarita was impressed, gave her word there would be no tricks. They would have a straight-up one-on-one wrestling match next week and offered her hand. Velvet reluctantly agreed and walked out. And
after shaking hands,
she walked out, and not 1 second later, not a 60th of a minute later, Sarita had a hearty belly laugh, turned to Rosita and said that she was going to, and I quote, screw her so hard she'll have trouble walking.
She LOL'd.
Yes. So Velvet cannot possibly have not heard this. Again, it's impossible to take seriously, and that makes it impossible to care about.
Babyfaces are idiots in this company.
Babyfaces are complete tools. Morgan was ranting backstage.
Oh, I hated this.
I have no idea what he was talking about.
I'll tell you what he was talking about.
All right.
He said if anyone knew anything about him, they'd know about the political minefield he'd had to maneuver trying to get the title.
I don't know anything about that.
I've been following Matt Morgan since the day he debuted, and I have no goddamn idea what he's talking about.
I don't have any idea.
Why would anyone have any idea what he's talking about? What the fuck is he talking about? What political minefield?
Don't know.
Bullshit.
So you started talking about
I hate hearing about politics and ratings on television. Nobody cares what your fucking ratings are on television.
Or your political minefield. He started talking about, I think Hernandez. He said somebody cost him the world title at some point. Did Hernandez interfere in a title match he had?
He may have.
Because if he did, I have forgotten it.
Would have been nice to have a replay, but come on now. They got a lot of shit they got to put on the
show. Or just to have, it would be nice if they didn't have interference in every single match they do, so that when someone does interfere, I can remember it. We had Jarrett getting fitted for a tux. Karen was being a bitch, and Jeff was sick of her.
Way to get this storyline over.
Just, why should we care about their vows being renewed?
All I know is her boobs were looking good this evening.
Mm-hmm.
That got me through these segments. And speaking of boobs,
they did a recap of JWoww's appearance in October.
Mm-hmm.
They just randomly showed this footage from 4 months ago,
mm-hmm.
and then the announcer asked, "Is this the last we'll see of JWoww in TNA?" I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that the fact you brought her up for no reason after 4 months is no. We have not seen the last of her. So, in fact, yes, they announced that Angelina, who I guess is another Jersey Shore person, she's going to be on the show next week to call out JWoww. And Shore, Robbie E, and Cookie were fine with this. Angelina's on their side. Even though in this very segment they showed Cookie saying that everyone on Jersey Show was a phony. So there you go.
Who could possibly care?
I don't know. But Dixie watches reality TV, and so she assumes that people who on reality TV are big stars. So she assumes everyone will want to turn in their show, whereas in fact people don't care. This has been established every year after year after year. So you have the main event of Rob Van Dam versus Kurt Angle versus Ken Anderson. We talk about Rob, he
doesn't care.
He does not care anymore. There was a point here where he was like on the middle rope, and he knocked Kurt off, and he decided he didn't want to be in the middle rope, he wanted to be on the top rope. Making this transition took him about 30 seconds. Took him forever. And TNA did not edit it out at all.
No.
They showed it in its embarrassing, excruciating glory. So then Anderson takes Rob Van Dam down on the mat. He applies what I think was supposed to be an arm bar. It looked completely phony. And Rob sold this by pumping his fist defiantly. Mm-hmm. This was some bad pro wrestling. Kurt Angle single-handedly took it upon himself to try to make this a good match through 10,000 suplexes on guys. He was about to hook the ankle lock when Jeff and Karen came out in their tux and wedding gown. This distracted him, and he was pinned by Ken Anderson.
I love the part in this match where Anderson couldn't decide if he wanted to work on the left or the right arm. Remember when he put on that hold?
Yeah.
He put on a wacky hold on the right arm.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what the hold was. And then he just let go and put a different hold on the other arm. Mm-hmm. This guy's a horrible wrestler.
Yes, he is. He is no good. So they plugged the big lineup for next week. The highlight of this was Mike Tenay very clearly reading his script right on camera. Mm-hmm. Does not care. They don't care. Nobody cares. Then either Taz or Tenay got in his ear noticed that they had new footage, which means you got to see Mike Tenay reacting to the words new footage. What was the new footage, everyone? There was a man in a trench coat in the rain. We only saw his coat and his boots. And then on the screen appeared in smoky letters, not making this up, 3-3-11.
Yeah.
Just wave a giant sign.
Happened. That's what happened, everybody.
Yes. Just wave a giant sign reading, "We are a second-rate knockoff company."
They ripped off 2/21/11. Mm-hmm.
They did the exact same thing. Unabashedly.
My buddy Aaron sent me about 24 messages that have been posted to Dixie's Twitter. I want to read a couple of them. So, your huge surprise for Impact was that you can copy a promo video that WWE has been doing for the past month. Great job! This person says, yay for copying WWE. Fuck you, you dumbass bitch. Whoa. Booker G says, I'm officially done with TNA. Don't say shocking surprise and not deliver. You just lost a viewer. F you. This person says, LOL, that little 3-3-11 promo, that's the reason nobody takes your bingo hall company seriously. The Click Army says, so TNA just basically stole the WWE Taker 2/22/11 promo. Lame.
Basically.
Diva Lover 159. Learn to be original and never ever copycat. If you want to be taken seriously, not as a joke that you just made yourself tonight, learn to be original and you're nothing more but a joke. Just saying. Could you please be more original? 3-3-11. Really? And you wonder why your company sucks and it's in the gutter. Get new writers. Good job ripping off WWE in their 2/21/11 bit. Same font and everything. Anyway, that's about a third of them that I got sent here.
The point here, everyone,
people are not into this, apparently.
Impact sucks. Everyone knows it.
Yeah. Hopefully I get emails tomorrow with people thinking it might be The Undertaker.
That was my hope, actually, that they would somehow indicate Undertaker was going to be on Impact. After he showed up on Raw, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
This aired after the resolution of 2/21/11.
Anyway, this is a goddamn horrible show, everybody.
So better than last week.
I got nothing more to say about it.